If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon, link is in the description.
Chapter 39 Deals and the Blue Maiden. The ending for the duel was kind of what I expected what would happen. I can tell a deck which is still played in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! With access to synchro summoning would overwhelm a early gen deck like Yugi's. I will say there was possibly a chance for his win, since early cards were broken and the crippled LP amount would hamper a Lightsworn deck since the big dragons require a life point payment of 1000. Well, the duels ended, so the results speak for themselves. To be honest, I wouldn't want to give Yugi / the Pharaoh such a powerful card since he would abuse it like a farmer does to a cow. I start to walk towards the elevators since the next duel should be drawn soon and I don't want to miss it. As I reach the door of the elevator, I heard the words of a certain female duelist. "Where are you going, shady guy?" I turn around to see that Rebecca is standing a few paces away from me with Yugi, who is also looking lightly confused at Rebecca. "You should know that isn't my name, Miss Hawkins, but I would assume you believe we have more business to discuss." With some indignation she crosses her arms and pouts. "You were about to leave without giving Yugi the card." At her words I frown and pause. What is she talking about? "I remember that deal you made was for Mr. Moto to defeat you. He didn't, you surrendered in the end. It seems pretty clear-cut that he shouldn't get the card as a result," I say in a bland neutral tone towards the child. "But he did beat me," she says with a smile like a cat. "In the end he won the duel, so technically he beat me. Didn't matter the context, just the result." This causes everyone in earshot to pause, since though vague rules and defined definitions, she set up a plan to get Yugi a powerful card for free. One problem about that, I will say, that is some clever linguistic maneuvering, but just one thing you overlooked, my dear. I never verbally agreed to the deal, I only revealed the card in question. You assumed that meant I agreed to the deal you made single-handedly without my consent. I'm not obligated to hand over the card." His words are like dumping a bucket of water onto Rebecca, since she thought she played him. The look on Yugi's emotional state is in a small flux since he just lost the duel but was allowed to continue in the tournament. Next, Rebecca pulled him here with no explanation before saying he's gonna get the card. Then I just say no. His face is torn between disappointment and confusion. Also, the moment I give Yugi a card, Sito would be on my back about it, wanting something of equal value to the dark magical circle, but that card might be something I can't just give away. At my words, this makes me feel everyone's eyes on me, even a set of eyes though the security cameras. Rebecca is the first one to speak up. "Couldn't you just give him the card as a favor from me?" This catches my attention, but I smirk slightly. "Sadly, you already owe me a favor for giving you that deck, but I am willing to have them owe me a favor for the card." My words cause the pair to look slightly shocked at my idea. "I won't ask for much when I cash in the favor also, since giving you a single card isn't of the same worth as giving a whole new deck. Think of it as a tiny favor." Yugi turns his head to the side, probably conferring with the Pharaoh before sighing and saying, "Okay, then I'll owe you a favor." I take out the card and present it to Yugi, but when he's about to grab it I take it out of his reach. "Both of you. I trust Yugi, but your friend might try and pull a fast one since you're not the same person." My words causes Yugi and the Pharaoh to both have faces of shock. I eye the spirit fully and can see on his face he's confused that another person can see him, but I hear him agree to the favor as well, but slightly reluctantly. At that I hand the card over to Yugi, who slips it into his deck. With my business concluded, I go towards the elevator. I take it alone since I would presume Rebecca would go with Yugi and his friends. The elevator is silent and the doors open, but instead of being the main room it leads to what seems to be a server room. Standing tall and imposing is Sito Kaiba, who looks at me with annoyance and determination. I approach him with a smile, half guessing what he wants. "I don't need you to tell me, you want that card I talked about, which would be great for you. I assume you redirected me here so you can get it." The smirk on his face tells me I'm right, but I continue. "Also, you're someone who wouldn't like to have favors handing over you, so you would prefer something tangible and direct for the trade. Let me guess, more stocks would be out of the question, so maybe a blank check." "Sito has enough, stop be so banal, you already have a price in mind. You wouldn't have talked about the idea in the open unless you intended for me to hear it, so what do you want for the card?" I turn to the side and smile at him. "Oh, something very simple that I believe you wouldn't care about. I want the ownership of the island where Kaiba Corp's original HQ was built on, well, I mean after the tournament, since it's currently housing the finals tower." My price causes him to look at me with squinting eyes, evaluating the deal. "One card vs an island covered in rubble. Show me the card and I'll think about it." At this I smile, before tilting my head with a realization. For it I just need to check something. Can you show me a blue eyes for a second?" My request annoys Sito Kaiba, but he sees little point not to. He takes his deck and reveals a blue eyes. He even hands it to me. I can see why, since there's a transparent film on the card which makes it unterrible. When it's in my hand I use my spiritual essence to say, your wait is over Kisara, let's reunite the Keeper of the Blue Eyes and their destined maiden. I pump some spiritual power into the card and feel a card appear behind the Blue Eyes White Dragon card. With a smile I hand the cards to Sito, who is confused, but he takes his dragon back, but he feels that the back of the card isn't the film, so he pushes the cards away to reveal the card behind his dragon. Maiden with Eyes of Blue Light Spellcaster / Tuner / Effect ATK 0 / Def 0. Unaware to Sito behind him, hugging him like Miquella does to Raiden, is a white-haired woman with blue eyes which seem to pierce the darkness, smiling. Reading the card, Sito smirks and says, "Take the dusty old island. Once I am crowned the best duelist in the world, there it would be left to rot anyway as a monument to the past Kaiba Corp. Both me and him have an electronic contract written right there for the deal, and we return to the main room as the spheres are being drawn. The guard has just grabbed a sphere, looking at it to confirm before throwing it hard towards a muscle-bound man who seems to be a weightlifter. He catches it and smiles before flexing and showing the sphere, which depicts a 3D cast of a flexed arm with budging muscles and veins. The first duelist to duel next is Sergei Ivanov. The machine spits out another sphere which the guard looks at. He looks around the room before throwing it towards a group of people. Within that group a white-haired boy catches it, surprising everyone, even him it seems. He looks at the sphere and sees it depicts a 3D coin. One side has a cup of tea while the other depicts an ominous ring. The second duelist is Bakura Ryu. Can both contestants make your way to the arena outside? Chapter 40 Muscles vs Curses. Hearing Bakura would duel some random guy feels pity for him, but even I know, even with how bloodthirsty he is, he wouldn't risk blowing his cover this early against the pharaoh. He might be maniacal and crazy, but he isn't an idiot, so he shouldn't pull him into a shadow game. I think. It's not like I can do anything without causing him to form a grudge towards me. Yami, Bakura isn't someone you want to have on your back. Leave him for the pharaoh to banish for a while, keeping his attention. I just get a new plate and start stuffing my face. It isn't long before a pair of figures who I never wanted to meet come walking toward me. Pegasus and Patches come towards me while smiling. I start to converse with them, massively curious how they got along, and I find out why quickly. When they met, Patches spun his skullduggery and thieving as treasure hunting and misadventures. Who knew a man of many stories and a man who loves stories would get along? The weirdest thing is that Pegasus, while taking them with a grain of salt, is believing them mostly, since Patches is great at weaving a narrative while focusing on the key parts while using the rest to add flair. Hell, I'm listening as well, and if I didn't already know that his claim, that he fought Pinwheel in the catacombs, was bogus, I would have believed him. He's too smart to face the cartwheel skeletons without sending some sap before him. His stories are entertaining enough that they fill the time until the feed of the screens in the room presents the arena again. It doesn't take long before the pair start their duel. Sergei's LP, 4000. Bakura's LP, 4000. Let's start this duel off with a face-down monster and a face-down. Your turn. The muscled man does a standard T formation for their first turn, letting Bakura start. Still feinting his possession in his natural voice, Bakura speaks, "Okay, then I'll draw, and from that draw I'll change the scenery. I'll play Terraform." Terraform spell. When it's played on the field, the card is revealed, and from it, a holographic light net springs forth and encases everyone in the blimp in a sphere made from the net lines. From my deck, I'll find and then play Dark Sanctuary to the field. At his words, the holographic light sphere takes on a purple-like color before each of the gaps of the net flash that new purple light before revealing a new landscape of a dark castle shrouded in a purple fog and a red clouded sky which has eyes and mouths visible within. Dark Sanctuary spell/field. The sight of the field causes some of the younger people to shiver at the card's depictions, but anyone aware of Lovecraftian horror would find it tame. Oh, that just reminded me of the 6 entities cards. It makes me question their spiritual strength since they're based on the Thulhu mythos gods. Back to the duel. To my field, I'll summon my Headless Knight, in attack mode, and have it go attack your face down. A small portion of the purple fog pilfers onto the field, and stepping from it like a phantom is a silver armored knight but with no helmet or head. The knight charges in fury and strikes down at the face down. Headless Knight Earth Fiend /normal ATK 1450/def 1700. The knight's blade strikes true, but from its position it seems to become stuck in the body of something. It becomes apparent when an annoyed skittering sound is heard as a large furry being appears from the face down, the sword hitting its belly but at the same time seemingly not doing it any harm. Giant Rat Earth Beast /effect ATK 1400/def 1450. Internally I'm laughing at the chances of a pair of monsters battling while having that 50-point add-on, but the look on Bakura's face is one of bemusement. I'll just end my turn by playing 2 cards face down. Sergei goes to start and draws a card, but once he draws, Bakura speaks again. I activate my destiny board. His starting card for his endgame stratagem makes its appearance, meaning this game has now got a major time crunch. Destiny board trap / continuous. That just means I have to end this quickly, and with what I just drew this should do it. I summon from my hand Monk Fighter. Appearing from the fog on foot as if arriving at the outskirts of the castle is a man in orange robes with white hair. He looks determined, but his muscles seem not well developed. Monk Fighter Earth Rock / Effect ATK 1300 / Def 1000. The appearance of the monk confuses most since he doesn't seem remarkable, but Sergei starts to speak. From my hand I special summon my master monk by training my Monk Fighter for the fight. As his words are said, the Monk Fighter on the field starts to age rapidly, with their muscles bulging up and becoming hard as steel. When it seems he's at his peak, he flexes, and his outfit explodes, revealing a scared torso of ABS. Master Monk Earth Rock / Effect ATK 1900 / Def 1000. Lastly, I'll hand my monk a legendary black belt to show off his mastery of martial arts. The rope belt of the master monk starts to darken and thicken before becoming a proper martial arts belt, which wraps around his waist, emanating energy. Legendary black belt spell / equip. I'll swap my giant rat to attack position before having my master monk go to take out your knight. The monk advances at rapid speed towards the knight. It even leaps into the air, about to kick the knight's form, but midair he becomes frozen in place as the many gazes of the Dark Sanctuary leer at his form as if apprising him. Dark Sanctuary makes it so if you want to attack, a coin is flipped. If it is heads, the attack is stopped, and you take half the attack of your monster. Bakura presses a button on his dual disc and a coin appears between the pair of duelists before going skyward. It flips too many times to count before settling on the ground with a result. Heads. The eyes of the Dark Sanctuary glow and a shadow form of the Master Monk appears. It turns towards Sergei and goes to tackle him, which causes him some damage. Once he takes the damage, he knits his eyebrows before speaking. I'll have my Master Monk attack again due to his effect. The monk, now free of the Dark Sanctuary, goes to quickly recover speed towards the knight, but the eyes of the Sanctuary are everywhere, and his form is frozen, this time an inch from striking the knight. Bakura activates the coin function again. The coin is sent flying and this time lands quicker than before. Tails. At this result, Bakura isn't happy, but he's fine with the result of losing some minor life points since it doesn't matter much, but the look on Sergei's face says otherwise as he speaks. Due to the effect of the black belt, you take additional damage equal to the defense of your monster. The realization hits Bakura as he sees the Dark Sanctuary's eyes blink, which releases the Master Monk. In a blitz of speed and power, the headless knight is ripped limb from limb by the master, and the last part of the knight is kicked straight at Bakura to inflict the damage. Sergei's LP, 4000 greater than 3050. Bakura's LP, 4000 1850. The harmful strike causes Bakura to recoil, but he quickly watches as the muscular duelist points at his giant rat. Now Furball, attack him directly. His words cause the rat to get on all four limbs before scurrying towards Bakura. Again the eyes of the Dark Sanctuary seem to gaze at the rat and makes it freeze in its tracks, determining its fate. Bakura presses the dual disc again for the third time and the coin is tossed, and the results come quickly. Tails. Again the eyes of the Dark Sanctuary blink, releasing the rat from the suspension. This allows it to continue to attack Bakura directly. With a slash of its claw it hits him before returning to its monster zone. Bakura, 1850 450. Being reduced to such a low value, I can picture the peanut gallery of Yugi and his friends commenting on Bakura's situation. Oh yeah, they still think he's currently unpossessed. But with Sergei's final monster attack he nods before ending his turn. This causes Bakura's destiny board to materialize beside him, and from the fog of the Dark Sanctuary a pair of cyan flame spirits appear, each carrying a flame depicting a letter. Currently, only D and E are present, but with their appearance Bakura draws. He quickly looks at his hand and forms a game plan for the tricky situation. From my hand, I'll play Graceful Charity. Graceful Charity spell. He draws more, and with the cards he draws his smile becomes prevalent on his face as he discards a pair of monsters from his hand. Now with those in the grave, I can special summon from my hand my Dark Necrofear in defense position. From Bakura's graveyard a trio of pale flames fly out as if in fear, running away from their greatest fear. They wander in the fog of the Dark Sanctuary, their positions obscured by the fog but visible due to the light they produce. Without warning or indication, one of the flames gets snuffed out, and a second later that patch of fog thins out to reveal nothing. The other flames become more erratic, but it happens again and again, taking them out. After a second the fog increases in density, becoming semi-solid. Emerging from the fog is a pale blue-skinned bald woman with elongated features akin to a mix between a goblin and elf in unique and mismatched armor. She cradles the destroyed form of a doll in her hands and smiles maliciously at the monk and rat. Dark Necrofear Dark Fiend /Effect ATK 2200/Def 2800. Her appearance is daunting, and her defense is just as daunting to Sergei since he knows with her on the field his chance of winning in time is made much harder. With her appearance on the field, Bakura has a small smile common to the normal Bakura, but he places a card face down before ending his turn. Sergei draws his card and frowns, but he shrugs before setting it face down as a monster on the field and placing 2 cards face down in his spell and trap zone, leaving his hand empty. Lastly, he repositions his rat into defense position before ending his turn. This makes another letter form on the destiny board, making it now read out DEA. Still with his smile, Bakura draws and looks at the card before playing face down his own spell /trap zone and ending his turn, knowing he just has to wait to win. Sergei draws, looks at his card and laughs. This disturbs Bakura's smile, but curiously Sergei places the card face down in his spell /trap zone before speaking. I flip the monster I played last turn. The card on the field slowly flips over like a trap door. When it is raised fully, it now depicts a grayish-green sphere holding a creature with a dirty toothjin and a single red eye. In an unceremonious style, the sphere just pops out of the card and rolls to the ground and is now looking at Bakura with its grin tilted 30 degrees being off-center. In a chatter of teeth, the creature within the jar explodes from it as a grey blur and jumps and bites at Bakura's hand, coating the cards in an illusion of red slime before shooting over to Sergei's hand and then rebounding to return to its jar, grinning evilly but satisfied as if just had a snack. Morphing Jar Earth Rock /Effect ATK 700/Def 600. Its effect makes us both discard our hands before drawing back to 5, he says this as he draws 5 cards since he was empty. This causes Bakura to grumble but discard and redraw. Now to take down the castle I activate the field card, Catapult Zone. Behind Sergei a militia of soldiers appear from the fog rolling a pair of catapults. The pair of catapults are worked on by the soldiers and start slinging rocks skywards towards the dark sanctuary. Catapult Zone spell /field. In a siege against the castle, the walls crumble and collapse before the spires of the dark castle fall. With their removal, the dark sky starts to fade, clearing the sky of the nightmarish depictions of eyes and mouths. Both Bakura and his dark necrofear become uncomfortable due to the loss of the field card. Sergei continues though. Now from my hand, I activate United We Stand and equip it to my master monk. At his words, Bakura thinks quickly and points to his face down. In response, I activate my face down Mystical Space Typhoon and destroy your legendary black belt. In a flash of actions, a small storm appears and quickly goes and strikes at the master monk. From the lightning strike, the master monk's belt is the target, so it burns up before fading away, but the master monk looks like he's now empowered by the strike as his form is now coursing with red lightning, becoming stronger and buffer. United We Stand spell /equip. Mystical Space Typhoon spell /quick play. Master monk ATK 1900 4300. Doesn't matter, I'll have my master monk attack your dark necrofear, then attack directly for the win. Master monk go. At his words, the massively swollen monk charges forth like a force of nature, and in a blur of speed it appears on the other side of the blue-skinned woman. It wraps arms around her waist from behind and German suplexes the fiend into the field. She disappears from the blow in a show of lights. He then stands up and then stares at Bakura with an evil grin on his face. He goes to tackle the possessed boy, but as he goes to attack, a trio of women in teal robes appear in a triangle formation around the boy. Each woman wields a talisman and they form a barrier around Bakura, protecting him. I won't be losing this turn since I activate in response to the second attack by activating Waboko to protect me from any damage this turn. The appearance of the woman causes Sergei to be confused, since doesn't that card also protect monsters, so why didn't he play it to protect his monster? With little left to do this turn, he goes to end his turn. This causes the destiny board to gain its 4th letter, now reading out DEAT. This catches everyone's attention, but another surprising thing occurs as the master monk on Sergei's field becomes still before walking over to Bakura's field. This confuses everyone, but as the master monk turns around the face Sergei, it turns out their eyes are now just black orbs with no pupil. It takes a stance, but it's very stiff as if mechanical. The truth becomes apparent as, like a ghost, a figure of a blue-skinned fiend is present with a puppet handle. From it, thin transparent strings connect the fiend to the monk as if a puppet and puppet master. The effect of dark necrofear, it allows me to take control of the monster which destroyed it at the end phase. So you monk is now working for me, Bakura exclaims in his victory. Seeing the field situation with Bakura controlling his monk going into their turn, he knows his field and knows his situation but can do little to nothing as Bakura draws for his turn. I'll summon a face-down monster and have your master monk clear your field. At Bakura's command, the puppet monk in a flash of speed and power grabs onto the morphing jar and throws it like a shot put at the rat. Like a meteoric impact, it causes a large impact. Surprisingly, from the strike the morphing jar seems fine, but its eye is spinning in its jar from the blow. I activate Catapult Zone. By sending a rock-type monster from my deck to the grave I can save a rock-type monster on the field from destruction. Also you activate the Giant Rats effect, allowing me to summon a monster from my deck to replace it. Appearing is another monk fighter. It looks ready for the fight, but the appearance of the master monk on the other side of the field causes it to flinch. Seeing that Sergei's field is still populated, Bakura is annoyed, even though it's not the worst situation since the master monk is still so powerful due to the board's presence, so he ends his turn. This allows Sergei to try and return. He draws. Before analyzing the cards in his hand, he comes up with a way to get rid of the mad monk, but he realizes that's all he can do before losing. If he takes out the mad monk, yes, it would remove the biggest threat on the field, but it would free up the last spell/trap zone for the Destiny board since Dark Necrofear is blocking its completion, so he can't remove it on his turn. I'll summon a monster face down before playing from my hand the spell card Kami Note Blow. Kami Note Blow spell. I'll next have my monk fighter take out your face down monster. The monk looks at the field before charging towards the face down. It does a leap into a downward kick into the card, and from the card a pair of sickly hands, a gaunt face appears as if partly phased into the card and tries to claw at the monk. Earthbound Spirit Earth Fiend /normal ATK 500/def 2000. Seeing this, the monk uses the recoil of the attack to leap back to its monster zone on Sergei's field. Due to monk fighter's effect, I take no damage, but due to Kami Note Blow it destroys your monster regardless. With his words, the spirit seems to start glowing, as when the monk struck him, he filled the spirit with ki, setting it to burst out from it from within. In a burst of light, the spirit is returned to the earth, and with it gone, Sergei ends his turn. This allows Bakura to draw, and with little fanfare he orders the mad monk to attack the jar and the weaker monk on the field. The jar is smashed into pixels quickly, but when the mad master monk initiates a flurry of blows with the monk fighter, which results in sending the monk fighter reeling, but it's still alive a small distance away, the master goes to continue the battle but is blocked, as from the sky a block of stone appears to stop the mad master monk, ending the battle as Catapult Zone was used to protect the fighter. With little else to do, Bakura summons a face-down monster before ending his turn, allowing Sergei to smile since he thinks he's won. I draw. I'll flip summon my Golem Sentry, which has an effect to return one of your monsters on the field to the hand. I'll use it to regain my Master Monk. The card on the field flips over to reveal a cobblestone golem with its most distinct features being that its main body is that of a doorframe and it's wielding a two-handed poleaxe. Once it appears, it points at the mad monk before throwing its poleaxe towards the monk. Golem Sentry Earth Rock /effect ATK 800/def 1800. The poleaxe sails through the air and flies over the head of Mad Master Monk. Its flight cuts through all the transparent lines, holding the monk like a puppet. Like a puppet, once its strings are cut, it starts to collapse towards the ground into a heap. Its form disappears and is added to Sergei's hand, but it doesn't stay there, as just as quickly he reveals it. I tribute summon my monk fighter to special summon my master monk back to my field. Again, the monk on the field gets buff and older, turning from a monk fighter into a master monk. With grand gusto, Sergei speaks more. I'll have my master monk go and attack your face-down monster before attacking you directly. The master monk with great power leaps into the air and punches down at the face-down monster. When it does, though, a transparent grasp rises from the card and catches the fist of the master monk. Quickly he retreats as the face-down monster is revealed to be a spirit-like entity made up of glowing lines akin to the northern lights. It looks golem-like, and it interlocks its fingers, creating a barrier of interwoven lights as a rudimentary barrier. Protector of the Sanctuary Earth Fiend /effect ATK 1100/def 1900. With just the appearance of this monster, all hope within Sergei of winning evaporates. He knows this since he knows he has no way to take it out in time until the end step, in which Destiny board would complete, ending the duel. With resignation, Sergei lets out a sigh before nodding, placing his hand on his deck and saying, "I concede." The end of the duel is called, and the announcement is made on the screen. Sergei Ivanov has surrendered. Bakura Ryu wins. Comment. 8 comment. Vote. Chapter 43, Chapter 41 Disturbing Customs. Watching Bakura defeat the Muscle Man was honestly more interesting than I thought it would be, but that's mainly due to the plays of Sergei, who had to be active at Bakura's passive play style. But I will admit Bakura did a great play which placed Sergei within an corner by taking control of his buffed up Master Monk with Dark Necrofear. I don't care anymore since I continue to munch on some food. It doesn't take a long time for the main cast to reconvene into the main room. I do notice that Bakura is still holding up his act even though his creepy as fuck deck has been showed to them. Meh, I am really curious how that guy possessing Bakura keeps getting away with his facade so many times. Hell, the Pharaoh should be able to smell the dark magic coming off him. Maybe he can't since his spirit form has no nose, like did his mummification strip him of his senses when in spirit form later, that would also explain how brain dead he acts sometimes. That inadvertently makes me remember all the stuff they did to their dead and it makes me shudder. This catches Miquella's attention since I can tell he's bored at the banquet where he can't eat anything or speak to anyone besides his sister. What's wrong? Oh, just simply contemplating how cruel how people will go in the name of their religion. This makes Miquella's spiritual form to give me a side eye which I can tell is just asking for me to explain. Well, the religion that are the source of all the god cards in play from this world had some crazy idea about death and divinity. The main thing is that their ruler was the personification of their chief god on the earth. This makes the demigods who are listening in, since they have nothing better to do, look perplexed, since to them their only ruler was Marika, who in all terms and purposes was a goddess straight up. Now, that might not be the weirdest part to you lot, but their main religion also says that their chief god was killed by their brother before being ripped apart. He was patched again by his wife into a grafted form before being revived as the god of the afterlife while still technically being dead. Godwin speaks up at these words which perplex everyone else. So their mythos have it so they're like those who live in death. It doesn't make the most sense, but why does that disturb you? This causes most of the demigods' attention to return to me from Godwin. Well, as I said, the leader acts as his personification the earth, but when he dies they treat the myth behind the chief god as what to do to the body, so they rip out its organs and body parts, replacing them with alternatives before placing them to rest surrounded by their own body parts just out of reach. This includes the brain and genitalia. This causes most of the demigods to be slightly disgusted at the desecration of the dead. For them the dead should be buried in a catacomb with a root of the Erd tree to return to the Erd tree before being reborn anew. My attention is pulled from the disturbing thoughts as the machine at the center point of the room is activated. The guard at the machine activates it to produce the first sphere for the contestants. It doesn't take long as a sphere enters the guard's grasp. He inspects it before throwing it into the crowd gently. The sphere flies in the air and is caught by a boy with dark maroon hair styled in a ponytail. He looks at the sphere in curiosity as it depicts heavy tome with a front cover depicting a castle with a shooting star above said castle. The first contestant for the next duel is Leon von Schroeder. Looking at him I remember that he's here and pray to every merciful being I don't duel him, and whoever duels him kicks him out of the tournament. The machine spins up again and in no time another sphere is deposited from the machine. The guard takes and looks at it. It takes a second for the guard to examine the sphere, but he quickly examines everyone present. He sees his target and throws it towards them. The sphere takes some speed, but it's caught with little problem by a gloved hand. Said person isn't even looking towards the machine and caught the sphere as it would fly over their shoulder. The sphere in question simply depicts a enlarged numerical hash mark with curved lines making it seem it's bigger than normal at a slight angle, so it's off-center. With more examination of the sphere it turns out the lines are actually in a overlapping spiral pattern. The person turns their head and with a cheeky grin Patches smiles to everyone present. The second duel list is the man who is referred to as Patches. Can. The guard is cut off as Patches speaks over him. Hey, I am not referred to as Patches, my name is Patches, last names were a luxury where I'm from. The guard is stoic at Patches' rebuttal, but once Patches finishes he continues to speak. Can Leon von Schroeder and Patches make their ways to the arena for their duel. The pair go the respective elevators, but I place myself between Patches and his elevator by going to a table with more food. When we're about to pass I accidentally bump into him. We both react with silence for a moment before laughing since I'm covered in some food. He shrugs before entering his elevator. I go to my room to change and watch the duel. Within his elevator Patches takes out the note I placed in his hand and reads it. Well, isn't this interesting? By this info he's giving me this duel isn't gonna be easy like those mooks in the city. Hell, these are some interesting cards he gave me to take the kid out. He examines a trio of black cards with interest. Let's see how this pans out. This will be weird since I don't usually target children. Chapter 42 Castle Heist. The pair of duelists appear on the opposite sides of the rooftop duel arena. The appearances couldn't be farther apart. One is a tall lanky figure with a disposition that can only be described as shifty or as the personification of the word misdemeanor. On the other side a young and bright-eyed posh child who is ignorant to the shadows present within the real world. The comparison could be contextualized for the duel being that of experience vs hopefulness. Both duelists ready their duel discs and the duel initiates. Leon's LP, 4000. Patches LP, 4000. Leon starts off the duel by drawing his card. I'll play 2 cards face down before summoning a face down monster. That's all I can do for this turn, sir. The cards appear face down on Leon's field before he ends his turn, but Patches himself has a face of contemplation before speaking. You don't need to call me sir, I'm not fancy pansy knight. I know some people who would fit the title better, but myself no. His words cause Leon to look a little intrigued, but Patches just starts his turn. Let's start with this, I'll play Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness spell. Patches draws 2 before banishing a dark attribute monster from his hand. Next I'll summon to the field Marauding Captain in attack position. Due to his effect I'll also summon Meanie the Thorn to the field in attack position. A pair of cards appear on the field and from them appears a man in worn armor wielding a pair of swords. From the other is Meanie, who looks at the Marauding Captain like he's a knockoff version of Don Zalug with his dual wielding. Marauding Captain Earth Warrior / effect ATK 1200 / def 400. Dark Scorpion, Meanie the Thorn Dark Warrior / effect ATK 1000 / def 1800. With them there I'll have my Marauding Captain attack your face down monster. At his words the rugged warrior charges the face down to strike at it. The face down card flips over halfway during its rush as a small girl's face appears peering from under the card like it was a trapdoor. She sees the knight charging her for combat and cartoonishly jumps out into the open in shock before starting to run away while carrying a basket. In a funny display, the captain charges with his blades but the little girl can just run away equal to the speed of the knight's charge, meaning no combat really happens. After a while the knight is winded while the little girl is huffing and puffing as well from the exertion. The captain in a show of exasperation shrugs his shoulders before returning to Patches field. Little Red Riding Hood Earth Fairy / effect ATK 800 / def 1200. The displays annoy Patches, but he sucks it up and continues to play. Well, Meanie can't destroy her so that will stop me for the turn, you can go kid. As he says this he plays one card face down before ending his turn. Leon nods and draws. From my hand, I'll summon Iron Knight in ATK position. With him on the field, I'll play from my hand Gold Moon Coin. A card frame appears and galloping from it is a mounted knight wielding a one-handed thin lance-like sword. The knight pulls at the reins of his horse to top upon Leon's field. Next above Leon appears a large golden coin which appears in the sky like the moon. The idea of such a valuable coin makes Patches blinks, but his attention is caught instead when Leon walks onto the arena. Iron Knight Earth Warrior / effect ATK 1700 / def 700. Gold Moon Coin spell. The Gold Moon Coin makes it so I have to hand you the last 2 cards in my hand, but I can draw 2 for the cost. Patches shrugs since having more cards can't be bad, but everyone sees his expression change when he sees the cards in question. You're running that card, bugger, and the other is just as pointless for me. From his words Leon just smiles cheekily before returning to his space and drawing 2 cards to refill his hand. From my hand, I'll gift some glass slippers for your Meanie. At his words a card appears on the field and a podium containing some glass slippers appears within view. This catches the thief's attention. With a set of sparkle in her eyes she goes to pounce on them. Glass slippers spell / equip. But Patches, realizing it is a trap a mile away, reacts. I counter it with the trap Dark Illusion, to destroy the slippers. Dark Illusion trap / counter. Meanie goes to steal the slippers, dazzled by their clarity and how they shine in the light, but when she goes to grasp at them a shadowy cloaked figure appears and in an instant steals the slippers before her. This causes her to pause and look at this figure, who runs away with the prize before disappearing into a cloud of darkness. Meanie goes to chase after the figure for the loot, but when she's a few steps away not looking at the podium the glass slippers appear there again as if untouched. The slippers decay into pixels as Meanie returns to Patches field annoyed. He talks to her. Don't worry dear, they would have been a pain to walk around in anyway. One step and boom, glass shards in the foot. This causes Meanie to go slightly pale before refocusing on the field. Well, I'll have my Iron Knight attack your Marauding Captain. At Leon's words the knight controls his horse to gallop to the side to gain more area to gain speed to charge at the captain. The captain gets ready for the strike and even crosses his swords to form a basic guard, but the Iron Knight pierces through using the weight of both his armor and the horse to break through the captain's swords and armor, defeating him. Patches LP 4000-3500. With that, I'll end my turn. With his words and only 1 card in hand it becomes Patches' turn, who draws to 6 cards. From my hand, I'll play the card Painful Choice. Painful Choice spell. The card reveals itself to Leon and me sitting in the comfortable room. Groan at that broken card because I forgot it existed. Patches goes through his deck and sets out 5 cards for Leon to pick from. Funnily enough, it's one of each of the Dark Scorpion monster cards. Leon looks at them for a while before picking Chick the Yellow. Patches adds Chick the Yellow to his hand before placing the other 4 in the grave, but he smiles when he does this. Now from my hand, I'll play my second Allure of Darkness, banishing Chick to draw 2 cards. He does this and draws more, but when he sees the card he draws he gains his signature grin. Now to play a favorite card of mine. You must be asking what would make a card so great that it becomes my favorite. Patches' words catch everyone's attention. Leon goes to speak but Patches cuts him off. You don't need to wonder since here he is. I summon in defense position Trusty Patches. A card frame appears on the field and from it comes the dashing rogue wielding a very long spear and a tower shield twice as big as his torso, all the while with his signature smirk. Trusty Patches Dark Warrior / Tuner / Effect ATK 1200 / Def 1800. The appearance of Patches in card form causes most people to flip mental tables at the insinuation, I'm just annoyed he somehow nicked his card from me at some point, maybe when I was handing him the extra cards. Too bad, I didn't give any synchros. Because I'm curious, I look over to Pegasus, who has an expression I can only describe as amused while stunned. Most others in the room are just stunned. Patches starts to speak when I summon myself to the field. He allows me to draw 3 cards from the bottom of the deck before sending one to the grave. He does so and smirks before sending a monster to the graveyard. For the rest of my turn, I'll change Meanie to defense position before ending my turn. At his words, the female thief goes on the defensive, matching the defense of Patches in 1800. Leon starts his turn and draws his card. He looks at it before shaking his head at the bad luck since he quickly ends his turn unable to do anything. Both Patches smirk at the new turn as the one with the dual disc draws to his card. He looks at it and his field before nodding. From my hand, I play the field spell card Mystic Plasma Zone. This increases all dark attribute monsters' attack by 500 for the cost of 400 defense. Then from my hand, I'll summon Don Zalug. Mystical Plasma Zone spell / field. Don Zalug Dark Warrior / Effect ATK 1400 1900 / Def 1500 1100. Trusty Patches ATK 1200 1700 / Def 1800 1400. Meanie the Thorn ATK 1000 1500 1800 greater than 1400. Seeing the field through the screen, I realize something as I count the levels of the monsters on the field. Now I really wish I gave him a synchro. I'll change Meanie and myself to attack position. Don Zalug will take out your knight while I'll send the little girl away. At Patch's words, the Don takes out one of his pistols before shooting the knight straight up without any flourish, just bang, and the knight falls off his horse from the impact. The horse spooked and goes to run away in fright. Little Red Riding Hood is scared of the murder, but her attention is grabbed as the field version of Patches places his hands on her shoulder before pointing towards Leon. She realizes something before running to Leon scared and jumps to him before becoming pixels signified as being defeated. Leon's LP 4000 3900. Most people are stunned at this, thinking the monsters would fight, but Patches speaks, I don't hurt kids. He says this as if it's a straight fact of nature, like saying a leaf can be green or brown. Anyway, Don Zalug's effect makes it so discard a card from your hand. Leon discards a card at random but speaks, my monster's effects also happen. Iron Knight allows me to add an Iron Hans to my hand from the deck, while Little Red allows me to summon a level 4 warrior or below, so I'll summon another Iron Hans from the deck. A card frame appears and from it is a scruffy old-looking man wielding a one-sided axe with the other side having a hammer head. His appearance is akin to Lumberjack from Little Red's fairy tale. He's looking around as if searching for something or reacting to a sound. Iron Hans Earth Warrior / Effect ATK 1200 / Def 800. Iron Hans also has an effect. His is that when he's summoned, he summons an Iron Knight from the deck, but with the Knight's appearance Iron Hans gains 1000 ATK at the cost of the Iron Knight losing 1000. Iron Hans on the field takes out a block of metal from his outfit and hammers it against the hammerhead of his axe to cause a clang of noise. This seems to attract an Iron Knight who charges onto the field from out of sight. Once baited to the field, Iron Hans ambushes the knight and robs him of his swords and wielding it himself. Iron Hans ATK 1200 2200. Iron Knight ATK 1700 greater than 700. I have experience with reoccurring knights and all, but at least I can see a weakness, lad. I'll have Meanie attack your weakened Iron Knight. Meanie, acting with maliciousness, struts towards the Iron Knight to get into range before slapping his horse's flank. The action causes the horse to go berserk and start to run off. The knight on top tries to regain control, but it just amounts to flailing helplessly while the horse runs of the field. With the knight gone, Iron Hans's attack returns to normal, but since Leon summoned the knight in defense position, no damage was dealt. Iron Hans ATK 2200 1200. With that, I'll play 3 cards face down before ending my turn. Leon looks at the field with determination and draws from his deck. The sight of the card brings a smile to his face. From my hand, I use the effect of Glyph the Phantom Bird. By discarding him, it allows me to add the Golden Castle of Stromberg to my hand. Gylfie the Phantom Bird. Golden Castle of Stromberg spell / field. I'll play the Golden Castle of Stromberg to the field, removing your field card. The area of the arena shifts from the clouds around them, which were sparking with light, to clear away like fog to allow the reveal of a kingdom of gold resting upon the clouds around them. The eyes of the 4 thieves present bulge from the sheer wealth present. those on the field don't notice they become weaker at the cost of being better defended. Donzalog Dark Warrior / Effect ATK 1900 1400 / Def 1100 1500. Trusty Patches ATK 1700 1200 / Def 1400 1800. Meanie the Thorn ATK 1500 1000 1400 greater than 1800. I'll use the effect of my castle to summon Hexytrude from the deck as well as summon a second Iron Hans from my hand to the field, which will summon my last Iron Knight, which will increase my Hans's attacks greatly. Hexytrude Dark Spellcaster / Effect ATK 2600 / Def 2100. Iron Hans ATK 1200 2200. Iron Hans ATK 1200 2200. Iron Knight ATK 1700 greater than 700. With 2 cards, Leon's field becomes drastically harsher against the thieves. I'll use Hexytrude's effect. Once per turn she can destroy 1 card on the field, which allows her to attack twice at the cost of being unable to attack directly. I'll destroy the rightmost face down of yours. He points to a card and Hexytrude smirks evilly before waving her hand, which causes a ripple effect to appear over the card's surface before it's pulled up to reveal a trap card of imposing stone walls. Royal Order's Trap / Continues. The destroyed card causes Leon some confusion since he knows this is one of the cards he gave Patches with the gold moon coin, but the man has 2 cards in his hand, so he thought they were still in his hand. Bad luck, lad. I had a hunch you were gonna turn it around, so why not throw some decoys out just in case. Leon composes himself. I'll have Hexytrude attack Trusty Patches. At this both Patches sweat, but the one with cards reacts. Good thing the decoy worked since I hid this. I play Fairy Box. When you declare an attack I toss a coin. If I call it, your monster's attack becomes 0 until the end of the battle phase. At his words a large carnival-style box appears. It has holes on the top of it. The thieves scurry and jump into the box to hide. The judge at the side of the arena looks towards Leon, who nods to him. The judge then speaks as he takes out a coin. Patches, your call. Patches shrug before saying heads. The coin is tossed into the air and quickly lands on the judge's outstretched hand. He reveals it to be tails. Well, bugger, Patches is heard saying as Hexytrude on the field waves her hand and a magical hammer manifests for the box. The box activates, and multiple patches pop out of the holes. They look similar to the real one, but at one point Hexy smirks and the hammer strikes down on the box. The impact zone is visible, and out of one of the holes the real Patches is seen with the hammer hitting him directly. He flops against the edge of the hole rim before becoming pixels. Patches LP 3500 2100. Another of Hexytrude's effects is that if she destroys a monster by battle, she can increase the attack of a monster on my field by 400. I'll increase my Iron Knight's attack, before going to attack Donzalog with Hexytrude. Iron Knight ATK 700 1100. The judge, hearing Leon's declaration, looks to Patches, who simply says heads before flipping the coin. It glitters in the air and lands on his palm again. It's revealed to be heads. This result causes Hexytrude to pause as her magical hammer she used before is smashed apart when a cartoon gopher-like creature pops out from the box with a hammer and smashes the magic hammer apart. Everyone is speechless at that, but Leon recomposes himself again quickly. I'll have my first Iron Hans attack Donzalog, then after that my Iron Knight to attack Meanie. Hearing his words, Patches just says, I'll stick with heads for all my coin flips, judge. The judge nods before starting to do the coin flips. The first results in a head, with the second flip landing on a tails. The pair of iron monsters step up the box and go tackle it to get their foes. Hans, with little patience to the mischief of the box, goes to smash it apart with his axe's hammerhead. This just causes him to swing wildly, missing the fake Donzalogs that appear. The knight on the other hand acts with more patience before punching at the box and hitting Meanie. Remember, kids. Justice is unisex. Using force is okay if they're violent criminals. Meanie becomes pixels like Patches, leaving only Donzalog in the box. Leon sees this and points at his last Iron Hans, who he directs to go attack Donzalog. It doesn't take much time, but the coin flip is revealed to be tails. Unlike before with the other Iron Hans, the Iron Hans only swings once at the distracted Donzalog, who is still processing Meanie's defeat. Patches LP, 2100 greater than 1200. Patches survives the turn, but his field is empty, with his only protection being a box. Leon ends his turn, making it's Patches' turn. Due to the rules of the box, he pays 500 LP to keep it on the field. Patches LP, 1200 greater than 700. He draws and looks at the card, and his signature smirk returns to his face, but it's hidden by his cards from Leon's view. Leon, being the smart player he is, speaks up. I use Hexytrude's effect to destroy the fairy box. Hexytrude takes some sadistic pleasure by waving her hand before the box is ripped apart by magic, destroying the card, but this just causes Patches to start to giggle. His giggling is creepy and disturbing, but it doesn't last long. Okay, that was a bad move, and you will learn why very soon, but first I'll play from my hand the beginning of the end. Having 7 dark monsters in my grave, I can banish 5 of them to draw 3 cards from my deck. Beginning of the end spell. Refilling his hand, he smiles as he plays another card. I'll play from my hand Creeping Darkness. By banishing 2 dark monsters, it allows me to add a level 4 dark monster to my hand from the deck. He does this and then smirks in full view of Leon. Let the end game begin, kid. Now I reveal my last face down. Return from the different dimension. Return from the different dimension trap. Patches LP, 700 greater than 350. For the payment of half of my life points, this card allows me to special summon as many of my banished monsters as I want, so welcome bad guys. Above the field, a ripple in space appears like a black hole, and from it, 5 figures appear. Trusty Patches, 4, Don Zalug, 4, Meanie the Thorn, 4, Cliff the Trap Remover, 3, Chick the Yellow, 3. The resurgence of the Band of Thieves refills Patches' field, but without Gorg the Strong. Patches and Leon know he can't use their combo cards, so Leon is confused. First of all, with the summoning of Trusty Patched, I draw 3 from the bottom of my deck before sending 1 to the graveyard. He does this and discards a spell card Leon gave him ages ago, which was useless for him. Now to bring in the big boys. I know you like knights, kid, so my friend gave me a lot of them to share with you. I build the overlay network. At his words, the vortex in the sky grows wider and gains a cloak of stars akin to the night sky. I overlay Don Zalug with Meanie the Thorn to XYZ summon Evil Swarm Thanatos. The pair smile at each other before jumping into the vortex in the sky, and in a shower of lights a new monster is summoned. Their arrival is heard from the sound of a pure white horse galloping onto the field, its hooves heavy from its owner and rider's crimson armor, surrounded by red floating orbs which orbit the night. Evil Swarm Thanatos Dark Fiend /XYZ /Effect ATK 2350 Def 1350. I next choose to overlay Cliff and Chick to XYZ summon the Phantom Knights or Break Sword. The pair of thieves shrug on the field before jumping into the vortex. Again the sound of hooves reverberate around, but this time it's a hollow reverberation and not just one set. The source becomes obvious as a pair of ghostly knights appear on the field. Their distinct features are that their horses are just armor, but it pairs with the knight, who is a glowing suit of armor housing blue flames. The pair of them flank Thanatos as if guards for a grand VIP. The knights don't have an orb orbiting them, but their orbs are visible where the head of the knight would be, as if acting as the host of the armors. The Phantom Knights of Break Sword Dark Warrior /XYZ /Effect ATK 2000 Def 1000. Lastly, from my hand, I summon another Meanie before building the overlay network again to use Trusty Patches and Meanie to XYZ summon Cairn Gorgon, Anti-Luminescent Knight. Meanie appears on his field, but she knows what to do as the pair of them jump into the vortex. It doesn't take long, but this time the vortex doesn't produce a shower of lights but shoots from the vortex like a cannonball as a dark figure who lands in a heavy impact. It gets up from a crouched position with a giant arm in front of it. It moves it out of the way to reveal its form of a knight with golden plumed hair but with rock-like decorations which seem to draw in light and never let it escape. Once inside, the glowing orbs symbolic of XYZ monsters isn't present but in their place. His shed pads seem darker than they should be naturally. Cairn Gorgon Anti-Luminescent Knight Dark Rock /XYZ /Effect ATK 2450 Def 1950. The squad of Dark Knights cause everyone to recoil in shock, since like in Guinevere's duel another type of monster summoning is revealed to the world in a most bombastic way. Now that they're all here, I'll start. First of all, I'll activate the effect of Thanatos. By using a XYZ counter, it makes it so they are immune to monster effects for the turn. Thanatos raises his arm to the air and one of his XYZ materials hovers over to his palm. In a ruthless display he grasps hard and crushes it. Once it's crushed and gone, his and his horse's armor glow in blood-red runes warding him from harm. Now that is resolved, I'll use my Phantom Knight's effect, which is that by using one of their XYZ counters I must destroy one card on my field to destroy one of yours. I'll target Thanatos and your golden castle of Stromberg, but since Thanatos is currently immune to monster effects, only your castle will be destroyed. This causes Leon to panic, but he can't do much as on the field one of the Phantom Knights starts to glow grandly as their flames grow in intensity within the armor before spilling onto its greatsword. As the flames lick the greatsword, it gains a series of runes which empower the blade. The strength of the weapon causes the knight to lose control of it and force it to swing it to release the flames. It does so, but in the process doesn't realize Thanatos is in the path of the swing, which erupts a giant blue flame slash. The giant blue flame slash reaches Thanatos, but he and his horse take on an ethereal form which allows the blue flame slash to travel unhindered towards the face of the golden castle. It lands, and with its great heat, everyone watches as the golden castle starts to melt like butter in the sun before becoming pixels. Now with the castle done with, I'll have my knights take out your Iron Knight with my Phantom Knight and have my other knights take out your pair of Iron Hans. The knights charge as a unit with the Phantom taking out the Iron Knight before Thanatos and Cairn Gorgon destroy the woodsman, the whole process dealing tons of damage to Leon. Leon's LP 3900-600. Leon's field is now barren except for Hexytrude, who luckily has higher hit points than all three knights. When he realizes this, he notices he can win the next turn. I thought they would have ended it with that, maybe my math was off. Meh, I'll just play one card face down and end my turn. Seeing his chance, Leon draws and looks at it. The sight of the card causes him to smile and causes Patches to lose his smirk, since he can tell the kid luckily drew a way out. From my hand, I play Gingerbread House, then I'll have Hexytrude attack your Phantom Knight. Gingerbread House spell / continues. Behind Leon, a house made of sugary concoctions springs into existence and Hexytrude goes to attack the phantoms by raising her hand, Patches knowing that if this connected, he would lose reaction. I activate Shrink to weaken your Hexy, stopping her from defeating my monster. Also, I don't trust that Candy Shack, so I'll use Thanatos's effect to make himself immune to monster effects before using the Phantom Knight to take it out. Shrink spell / quick play. Hexytrude's attack seems to weaken in suspense and power. She stops from attacking by stepping back, but as she retreats, the Phantom Knights charge their second great sword with their flames before doing another grand blue flame / that misses Thanatos but slashes into the Candy Cottage, melting it akin to the Golden Butter Castle before. With the destruction of the Candy Condo, Leon's emotions drop, and with his Hexytrude unable to attack, he has little he can do, so sighs before ending his turn, ready for his defeat. Patches draw and look at his card, then Leon he gains a contemplative expression before he sighs. I see his expression through the camera and can tell he's annoyed for some reason. It seems I'll be winning then. From my hand, I play the card, Hidden Passage. Hidden Passage spell / continuous. With this it allows me to send my monster with the least attack to attack directly, so for this, my Phantom Knight will be able to attack directly. At his words, the Phantom Knights raise their swords to the air before galloping off to the side of the arena and ride off out of sight. Everyone is confused for a while, but after a few seconds, the pair of knights appear coming from the other side of the blimp's arena, cresting its edge like they circumnavigated the vehicle to attack Leon. With no way to resist the attack, Leon closes his eyes as the blades of the knights strike down on him for 2000 damage. Leon's LP, 600-0. Patches wins. Chapter 43, Human Nature. Watching Patches defeat Leon makes me smile, since even though his deck is powerful, I will admit my real reason for having Patches take him out of the tournament is that it's a very real possibility for someone that young to be hurt if he played against Odeon, Merrick, or Bakura. If any of the guys needed to play some dirty tricks, they have little reservations against using them, and Leon's deck is strong enough to put them in a corner to have them use them. At least that's what I want to say. It's not like I have a hatred against the fairytale archetype for losing against it at a tournament final in my past life. I wait for Patches to return to the main room, but I'm approached by two individuals, both Rebecca Hawkins and Guinevere, who are giving me the stink eye. I finish eating a mini sandwich and look at them before speaking what's wrong. Guinevere speaks, "How could you give someone sleazy like him some of those cards?" Rebecca is silent, but her pout shows her emotions. I turn away from the pair to focus on another mini sandwich. Oh, that? Well, the answer is simple. He might be the personification of the word vagabond, but he and I have known each other for a long time. I can trust him to do what's required, even things that would require the dirtying of hands. My response leaves the pair of female duelists silent, but Rebecca is the first to speak. That still doesn't explain how there's a card of him. This catches Guinevere's attention, but I can also tell that Yugi and friends are trying to eavesdrop the conversation, but doing it badly, since they're probably as curious as Rebecca. Now that my dear would be telling the secrets of others, also some things shouldn't be said in public, especially in front of people who would abuse said information. I say this while giving a side eye look towards Yugi's friend group, especially at a white-haired individual, but Rebecca just takes it as me insinuating her friend would be manipulative and scowls at me. Hey, I don't take kindly to your implication Yugi would be manipulative. Her words cause me to stop eating and smirk slightly. I sometimes forget how naive you are. I turn to her and lock eyes with her. As a free lesson, Rebecca, here is a fundamental fact you should learn. It is human nature to manipulate and shape the world around them to better suit them. It's what creates subjects of interest which drive progress as well as sparking conflict. This makes her knit her brows in annoyance at being talked down to not really believing my lesson. As she makes this face, I sense that Patches has arrived from the elevator and is coming towards us from behind me. If you don't trust me, Rebecca, why don't you ask an experienced figure if good people are manipulative? I say, baiting her to ask Patches, who arrives a few seconds later. Mr. Patches, do people with good intentions act manipulative? She asks, half indignant, half curious about his answer. As I expected, after processing the question for a second, he smirks and says, of course, hell, they're more likely to do so. His direct and no-nonsense answer causes Rebecca and Guinevere to be stunned, but he continues, they usually do so thinking it's for the greater good when it's just as harmful as a morally unjust person's actions. He looks at me with a look. You prompted her to ask me that, didn't you? What was the lesson this time? I return him a smirk. Manipulation is human nature. When he hears this, he just nods before grabbing a plate of mini sandwiches. I can't blame him since they're the bomb. Mental note, tip the caterer or chef, whoever Cito is paying for the food. Honestly, I can't stop. Rebecca still pouts, but everyone's attention is caught by the sphere machine activating and the guard getting ready to reveal the next duelists. This gets everyone to the machine before it starts letting the 6 spheres left in the machine dance. The machine produces the first sphere, which the guard collects and looks at it. The guard throws it like those before, but the recipient doesn't catch it with their hand. He catches it with his dirty blonde-haired head before it bounces off and lands in his hand. Joey Wheeler grumbles from the pain before showing everyone the sphere. Its symbol is a pair of dice topped with a jester's crown, and the guard speaks. The first duel list for this round is Joey Wheeler, and their opponent is. The second sphere is produced from the machine and is within the grasp of the guard. He throws it and is caught by probably the most chaotic person present in the tournament. I raise my hand to reveal the sphere in my hand to reveal its symbol as the most elaborate of them all, since as I rotate the sphere, angle of view for everyone, making its symbol change in the light, revealing each of the great runes individually depending on the perspective, with one view being that of the Elden Ring, composed of all great runes besides time and space. Drogon. Can both duelists make their way to the arena? His words cut through the silence. When he finishes, I look towards Yugi and friends, who are also looking at me, worried for Joey's chances. I see hovering behind Joey and Serenity is the Fire Keeper in spirit form, who bows to me slightly. I close my eyes and bow to her chosen path before turning to Patches and holding out my hand. He doesn't say a word but returns his spirit card to me, since I'll need it for the next duel against a duel list renowned for his luck against the odds and stronger opponents. I make my way towards the elevator and give Cito Kaiba a glance to the side. I can see a small smirk on the edge of his lips, since he probably enjoyed Joey's symbol, which calls out his lucky and jester nature. I go up to the arena and place into my machine my newest deck and get ready for the duel while Joey and his friends arrive. I'm not happy about having to duel the Fire Keeper, but fate plays its hand like that. I look to the sky and notice that the clouds have become denser and roiling like my inner emotions, but I let out a deep breath of air to calm my emotions. Sadly, it doesn't affect the actions of the clouds, which continue to move freely. I turn my attention as I see Joey step up to the arena and take his place. Before the referee speaks, I talk. Joey, just so you know, when I win this duel I won't be taking the Lord of Cinders. I know it's not your card to give, so don't worry. This stuns him, since he didn't know I knew about his current strongest card. How did you? Never mind, it doesn't matter. I'll win this duel, so quit dreaming, pal. We will see, I respond with a smile before activating my dual disc, with him doing so as well. Joey LP 4000. Drogon's LP 4000. Chapter 44, Moonlit Cinders. Joey's LP 4000. Drogon's LP 4000. The duel starts between the pair, but Joey goes first due to his sphere appearing first in the draw. He draws to his hand, and from it, he summons a monster face down before setting a backline card face down. He quickly indicates to end his turn, with this allowing me to draw for my turn. I look at my hand and notice a pair of cards that just cause me to smile. I saw a pair of similar cards before in the other decks, but I never could play them since I never drew them, but here the pair of them are just here to be played. Oh, this will be fun. From my hand I play a pair of spell cards. I play the Great Rune of Magic, then the Great Rune of Massachusetts. At my declaration, the air around the arena takes on an increased density, as behind me, floating as if a tapestry, appears a pair of glowing interlocking rings, one blue and one dark bronze, with a dark bronze line attached at a point. Great Rune of Magic spell/continuous. Great Rune of Mass spell/continuous. When these are played nothing really happens, but due to the order they're played in, the Great Rune of Magic gains one Elden counter, but I will continue my turn. From my hand I play a monster in face-down defense. This action causes the Great Rune of Mass to gain an Elden counter as well, but with this I end my turn for you to play. The pair of glowing rings give off an intimidating presence, but Joey starts his turn with a draw. He musters his courage and starts. From my hand, I summon to the field Goblin Attack Force in attack position and flip my monster to ATK position before having Goblin Attack Force attack your face down. In a flash of light, a mob of goblins in yellow hard hats appear on the field carrying clubs, and the monster card on the field flips over onto the field to reveal an impish, blue-robed warrior with a wing motif carrying a sword and shield. Goblin Attack Force Earth Warrior /Effect ATK 2300/Def 0. Little Wingard Wind Warrior /Effect ATK 1400/Def 1800. The goblins whip up a rabble of danger before going to attack my face-down monster. As they approach, I simply say, 2 more Elden counters for the Great Rune of Massachusetts. Joey, expecting me to react with some sort of defensive play, is confused as my words and demeanor, but my lack of reaction makes sense when the goblins reach my face down. Well, it's not like a band of ruffians or the Link wannabe can break this champion of the festival. The card faces down on the field flips up like a trapdoor, and launched like a top is a giant figure of stone and ore. His appearance launches him right into the mob and sends them all flying with his sheer momentum. One of the goblins' clubs even gets sent flying back to hit Joey. Iron Fist Alexander Earth Warrior /Effect ATK 1400/1800/Def 3000/2600. Joey's LP, 4000 greater than 3700. The hulking jar on the field brings a smile to my face for getting to fight side by side with a friend again. Joey for his turn realizes he can't continue the attack, so ends his battle phase, which has his mob go have a nap in defense position. When he does this, I speak up. The effect of Iron Fist Alexander activates, increasing his level by 2, which changes his card values. Iron Fist Alexander ATK 1800/2000/Def 2600/2400. The idea of Alexander becoming stronger doesn't please him, but he can do little to stop it, so he plays it safe. So in his main phase 2 he uses his Little Wingard's effect to return it to the defense position. He does end his turn there, allowing me to go. I draw and look at the card, which causes my grin to extend. It's a reunion of comrades, it seems. From my hand, I discard a card to special summon from my hand Shadow Wolf Blad in attack position. As my words are said and I discard a card, an ear-piercing howl is heard from the night sky before a tall cloaked figure with a great sword strapped to his back appears within view on the field. Shadow Wolf Blad Dark Beast Warrior /Effect ATK 2000/Def 1000. With his appearance, 2 things happen. First of all, the Great Rune of Mass gains 1 Elden counter, then Blad's effect activates, which allows me to add 1 of 2 cards to my hand, and I'll pick this one. I speak as I make my choice between a pair of cards depicting iconic locations. From my hand, I play the field card Redmina Castle. This adds an Elden counter due to the Great Rune of Magic. The clouds around us start to take on a maroon hue before visibly starting to thin to reveal the background of the arena has turned to that of a castle perched upon a stone outcropping in the distance behind me. Its appearance draws everyone's attention away from the arena itself, becoming a red sandy dune littered with the weapons of warriors from the Shattering. Redmina Castle spell /field. Welcome to Redmina Castle, the domain of the General Raiden. When I play this card, it allows me to add a card to my hand for later, but it also has other effects, some of which you might enjoy. My words cause Joey to be confused, as he usually is, but I continue to explain. I even raise my fingers as I explain so he can follow along. The first effect of Redmina Castle is that we both no longer have a hand size limit. You can have as many cards in your hand as you want. Secondly, monsters are no longer sent to the grave, they are sent to the hand instead. Lastly, once per turn you can special summon a warrior or beast warrior monster from your hand. This does increase the level of the monster by 2, but that most likely doesn't matter to you. I went slow when I was explaining, and I could hear the 2 gears in Joey's head turning, trying to keep up, but outside the arena, Yugi makes a comment about how this makes it so monsters will be battling constantly without restraint. Joey seems to get it, so I continue my turn. Now I'll activate Redmina Castle to special summon the last monster in my hand, Adherent Redmina Freya. At my words, the Great Rune of Mass gains 1 counter. Adherent Redmina Freya Fire Warrior /Effect ATK 1800/Def 1500. Upon the maroon dunes, a summon sign appears, and from it manifests a golden armored Valkyrie of the battlefield. She glances around at the surroundings and pauses at the familiar sight. She turns to me, and I nod at her. She nods back before stabbing her sword into the dunes. Now to show you your first challenge, Joey, I build the overlay network. I'll use the level 6 Blad and Freya to XYZ summon the Lord of Redmina Castle. At my words, the pair of warriors look at each other and can tell of each other's strength. A vortex of starlight appears above the arena, beckoning them to beckon a demigod. In the background behind me, the Great Rune of Mass starts to burn bright as if on fire. The pair of warriors jump into the vortex and disappear. The vortex seems to stop spinning and sparkling for a moment before a hand is seen grasping at the edge of it and seemingly moving it to the ground, where it forms an archway into an unknowable realm made of still stars. The sound of hoofs stepping upon sand is heard as a creature crest over one of the many maroon dunes. The being in question is a skinny and emancipated horse. It approaches the vortex and lets out a quiet and weak neigh to the vortex. From the vortex the sound of shifting armor is heard before a titan-sized figure seems to step out of it onto the dunes. The sheer size of the man causes everyone present to pause, but everyone watches as he takes a few steps forward before raising his leg and mounting over the weak horse. The titan and his trusty companion turn to face Joey, who is now facing the direct stare of a demigod for the first time. Raiden the Starscourge Dark Warrior /XYZ/Effect ATK 3000/Def 3000. The reveal of Raiden's strength values being equal to that of Blue Eyes causes Joey and his friends to go quiet. I also get the feeling Sito, Mokuba, Pegasus, Yami Bakura, Odeon and Merrick have just realized I'm way more of a threat than they realized. Now for the battle phase, I'll have Alexander take out your little wingard. At my command Alexander flexes his arm and goes to attack the little blue knight. He waddles into melee range before delivering his signature Iron Fist, which destroys the blue knight, but Joey remembers that it just added back to his hand. And with that, I'll end my turn, but before that, Alexander gains 2 levels for winning a battle this turn. As I say this only, I see this, but upon the back of Alexander a large crack in his stony exterior starts to form. Iron Fist Alexander ATK 2200. My declaration catches people off guard since the big scary giant on the field didn't attack, but being the smart one, Yugi realizes that if I send the goblin attack force back to the hand, Joey would just summon it again to then defeat Alexander, but currently they are still napping harmlessly. Since I just ended my turn, it's now Joey's again. He looks at the card he draws and quickly reveals it to be a Pot of Greed. Pot of Greed spell common like candy. He draws more cards with my Great Rune of Magic, gaining a counter before he looks at the new additions with interest before speaking. I'll play 2 cards face down and a monster face down before ending my turn. I'm curious about his face downs, but I can easily guess that the face down monster is Little Wingard again. Regardless, I draw a card that I'll need later, but currently it is actively harmful if I play it, so I just continue on with my turn. Knowing there is little point in keeping the goblins on the field, I make a decision. I'll have Raiden attack the goblin attack force and Alexander attack the face down. At my words the bulky pair of warriors go to squish their foes. I can see Joey realizes due to Redmina Castle and that I'm not dealing damage, so it's fine to lose some fights for the surprise uppercut later. Too bad I know I'll be throwing that punch, but my internal ramblings are cut short as the effects of the battle phase happen. First of all, the mass rune gains 1 Elden counter due to the flip summon, and then at the end of the battle phase Alexander gains 2 levels for defeating a monster. Iron Fist Alexander ATK 2200-2000. Yugi, T, Tristan and Bakura comment on how Alexander's just as strong as Red Eyes now, but I tune them out and simply end my turn. Joey draws again, but this time when he looks at the card he gains a smirk on his face. I'll use your Redmina Castle to special summon from my hand Guilford the Lightning, and also from my hand I'll equip him with a lightning blade to empower his ATK to 3600 attack points. Guilford the Lightning Light Warrior /Effect ATK 2800-3600/Def 1400. The sky above the dunes starts to roll with clouds before a small rain of lightning strikes hits against the dunes. They get more intense as time passes, but at a climax, a large bolt strikes Joey's field, revealing an armored knight in a red cloak coated in electric energy. I'll have Guilford take down Raiden. Hearing his declaration for battle, Raiden raises his pair of great swords which are glowing with purple energy housing his XYZ materials. The general charges towards the lightning warrior astride on Leonard's back. Guilford, sensing the strength of Raiden, charges forth to take down the titan. The great warriors start an epic duel upon the dunes, a battle between a warrior as quick as lightning and a warrior with blows equal to the weight of mountains. With each swing of his blades Raiden would rend the dunes, sending ancient weapons scattering in his wake. His opponent embodies his title. His movements are quick and powerful, entering and exiting the guard of the general in between the demigod's strikes. In a dazzling move, in response to one of Raiden's great swings, Guilford becomes like Livewire and jumps into the air, landing on one of the dislodged and flung weapon. Remains to jump from one to the other before striking a plunging strike into the chest of the demigod. Guilford jumps back at the blow, leaving his sword in Raiden's chest, and Raiden in question strikes his swords into the ground as if in support against falling to the ground from the mortal blow, but his pride demands he rides Leonard till his last breath. Good fight, but it's time I show you why Raiden is so powerful to be known as the Lord of Redmina Castle. I activate his effect. For the cost of his XYZ materials he can stave off death's grasp before destroying all monsters in front of him. As my words sink in, the expression of Joey, his friends, and Guilford pale as the pair of Raiden's swords start to glow with purple energy before the energy is pumped into the ground. In a loud roar from his voice, the gravity around him visibly intensify massively with a purple-tinted energy. In a move similar to his hero Godfrey, using his demigod strength causes purple cracks of energy to form in the earth which spread like the cracks in a glass pane towards Joey's field. Guilford, being the agility-based warrior he is, he tries to jump away, but as he attempts to jump, he finds the intensified gravity locks him to the ground, making it so he can't escape. The purple cracks alight with energy and power is run through them, destroying the agility-based warrior, returning to Joey's hand due to Redmond Castle. Raiden picks up his blades, but they no longer glow with energy as before. Also, since there are no monsters left to battle on Joey's field, Alexander gains a level due to their effect, reaching level 11 with 2500 attack and 1900 defense. Joey has a look of contemplation before frowning and resummoning his little wingard in defense position to at least mitigate some damage and possibly not die to Raiden's next turn. With that he ends his turn, the summon adding an Elden counter to the field. I draw with a smile on my face before counting the amount of Elden counters on the great runes. I come to 13. From my hand, I'll play Flask of Cerulean Tears. It allows me to draw 2 then discard 1 card. I draw 2 more cards before smiling. I'll be discarding a monster card, but due to the effect of Redmond Castle it instead sent to my hand, so I don't need to discard. Also next I'll use the effect of the Great Rune of Magic, which just gained an Elden counter due to the spell card played. The ring-like rune changes from its golden natural color to a pale blue hue. By spending 3 Elden counters from the field it allows me to retrieve a spell card from the grave. I'll regain the Flask of Cerulean Tears before playing it and drawing 2 more cards, then discarding a monster which will stay in my hand. Having a broken draw engine like this while having no hand size limit is borderline cheating, but I know I'll have to prepare since I know Joey still has the Dark Souls cards. I do combo 2 more times, so my Elden counter is at 6 and my hand is at 12 cards, but it won't stay like that, since I just drew 2 monsters allowing me to work towards someone special. The only problem, it's I have a better path to progress than that. For now, I'll play the long game since I can tell Joey won't go down easy. I'll have Alexander take down your face down again. Again, Alexander goes forth and this time he ground pounds card into pixels to reveal a flattened, blue-robed knight, which just returns to Joey's hand. And with that, I'll end my turn. My declaration catches Joey and his friends for a loop. Joey even exclaims, "What are you doing? Why aren't you hitting with the big guy? I'm wide open." I roll my eyes and sigh. Raiden has a demerit for using his extremely powerful board wipe effect. The cost is that he loses the capability to attack directly. Also I attacked with Alexander so he could reach level 12, to activate his second effect. At my words the crest upon the top of Alexander's lid glows gold. Alexander lets out a hearty chuckle on the field before walking to stand behind me and crossing his arms, acting akin to a bodyguard. Now he acts as an indestructible continuous spell card which allows me to draw twice per draw phase. To be honest, while you had the powered up Guilford, Alexander was the bigger threat of the two. You could have taken Raiden the next turn, but Alexander only needed to survive that round to activate the second effect. My explanation causes Joey to visibly grimace at the mistake, but I don't blame him for focusing on the boss instead of the NPC, but he recovers and draws a card which he looks at with some contemplation before continuing. I'll use Redmond Castle to resummon Guilford the Lightning, and for my normal summon I'll summon the Fire Keeper. With his words, the sky again rolls in anger, but unlike before that isn't the only phenomenon to appear, as on the maroon dunes a swirl of wind is seen coalescing, picking up the discarded remnants of the ancient warriors of the battle into a pile or remains. Guilford appears in a flash of light like before, but he appears with his distinct lightning-clad sword attached to his back. The reason becomes apparent as he reaches for his waist to take out a twisted and ash-covered sword. He takes some heavy steps towards the mound of warrior remains before grabbing the coiled sword with both hands and plunging it into the piles. In a burst of light and sparks, its reaction creates a form of life from the remains of the wasteland, and appearing from it like a spectre made of amber fireflies manifests a dark-robed woman wearing a silver crown which also acts as a blindfold. Once on the field, she smiles and bows to everyone politely as introduces herself to the world. The Fire Keeper Fire Saint / Tuner / Effect ATK 0 / Def 0. With her, on the field, I'll have her use her effect. It requires a dice roll to allow her to reveal cards equal to the roll and give me one of them before sending the rest to the grave. The referee takes out a die which has glowing edges and markings to make it visible in the arena. He throws it to the center point of the field, and everyone watches the result. It rolls and bounces a few times before landing on a 5. The referee goes to collect the die, and as he walks away the Fire Keeper starts to do her magic. The bonfire which is lit on the field starts to glow brightly, and from it, 5 orbs of fire appear from the pyre to hover over the bonfire under her control. The flames then change in form into card shapes before depicting the 5 revealed cards. Insect Queen Earth Insect / Effect ATK 2200 / Def 2200. Jinzo Dark Machine /Effect ATK 2400/Def 1500. The Legendary Fisherman Water Warrior /Effect ATK 1850/Def 1600. Time Wizard Light Spellcaster /Effect ATK 500/Def 400. Red Eyes Black Dragon Dark Dragon /Normal ATK 2400/Def 2000. Seeing the 5 cards, my brain short-circuits for a second. I then start to have a mental laugh at the chances. Each of those cards were those given to him from other duelists, and the funny thing is due to Redmina Castle all of them are added to his hand. I'll take Time Wizard, he speaks with a hint of sadness at having to discard his red eyes. He goes to discard the other 4 cards, but as he's about to do that I cough and speak up. They all go to your hand due to Redmina Castle. My words cause him to pause as the 2 brain cells in his head rub together to realize his hand has just been bolstered greatly. Honestly, handing Joey the Dark Souls cards is like handing a Neanderthal a lit torch. I'm honestly curious how he got into the finals, but maybe because this is actually the first time he's using one of them and Redmina Castle's effect created a unique combo unexpectedly. Joey's hand grows with all of his beast monsters, but he doesn't go to summon them. From my hand, I play Time Wizard to activate his effect. The red circular wizard appears on the field in a flash of light, the wizard waves his wand, and a large roulette wheel is formed in the air before starting to spin. Like a grandfather clock, the sound of its ticking reverberates everywhere. The roulette wheel slows down more and more, alternating between the skull marks and the stopwatch symbols. Everyone watches as the roulette stops at a skull mark on the wheel. Joey seems to grimace before the pointer takes one last step, landing on a stopwatch and glowing to confirm the result. Alright, Time Wizard will now accelerate the age of everyone on the field. As he says this, he realizes this might harm the Firekeeper, but I know she'll be fine. The Time Wizard on the field becomes animated as he casts his spell. The clock in its chest starts to spin maddeningly. The forms of Raiden and Guilford on the field start to change due to the time. Guilford takes on a more grounded and grand appearance while Raiden's form starts to weaken due to a red miasma that courses through his veins. The Firekeeper remains untouched by the passage of time, but as the Time Wizard finishes his spell, the 3 monsters are now different, each with different names and /or stats. Scarlet Maddened Raiden ATK 2600/Def 2600. Guilford the Legend ATK 2600/Def 2000. The Last Firekeeper ATK 0/Def 100. Raiden now looks identical to his in-game counterpart, but I'm more interested in the Firekeeper. I look at her and find the only real difference is that her blindfold has been raised to become a full-on crown. This also has revealed her eyes, which are a pair of blue eyes with black sclera. I recognize the eyes as the ones found in the darkened Fire Link Shrine, which are said to belong to the first Firekeeper. Now that our warriors are equal in strength, I'll have Guilford take down Raiden. His words catch my attention and make me have to respond quickly as Guilford charges forth to take on his past foe. I'll have to stop that for now. From my hand I reveal and activate the effect of Maiden Thurlina. She'll take the hit for Raiden. In a flash of light between the greatly aged warriors appears a white-robed woman with her arms spread out, bearing Guilford from attacking Raiden. Maiden Thurlina Light Spellcaster /Tuner /Effect ATK 0/Def 1000. Her effect makes it so instead of Raiden being destroyed, she's removed from play instead. The maiden has a look of solace on her face as Guilford takes his great blade and swings down, bisecting her in half, but with her death, a golden barrier forms around Raiden to protect him. Seeing Raiden still alive on the field, Joey isn't happy, but he can't do anything else this turn, so he ends his turn, allowing me to start my turn. I draw twice due to Alexander, who I glance at. As it turns out, the Time Wizard affected him as well, making his form calcify and age, but he's still standing proud. I look at the new cards and I smile since I found the card I was looking for. First of all, let it be known a grand festival shall begin. From my hand, I play the Raiden Festival. I play a spell card I gained when I played Redmina Castle, and from the castle in the background, a chorus of trumpets is heard, welcoming the celebration. Raiden Festival spell /continuous. I raise my fist forward before extending a finger to count the effects of the festival. The first effect of this card is that it allows me to add a monster to my hand from my deck, then the second effect is the more fun of the two. From our hands we're allowed to summon as many monsters as we wanted to the field as a real monster mash. Lastly, while it and Raiden are on the field, no one takes any battle damage. If you would have dealt damage, you're allowed to draw instead. Hearing the effects of the card, Joey and his friends are stunned at such an overwhelming card when paired with Redmina Castle, but Joey quickly comes to and looks at his cards as I retrieve the monster card. I nod to him to signal the monster mash, and as expected of him, Joey summons to his field Jinzo, Insect Queen, and his Red Eyes Black Dragon. For my field I get to summon up to 4, but from the choices in my hand I summon 3 monsters. Blad reappears but his companions are unknown to everyone present but myself. Shadow Wolf Blad Dark Beast Warrior / Effect ATK 2000 / Def 1000. Grand Smith IJI Earth Spellcaster / Effect ATK 500 / Def 3000. Preceptor Celavus Water Spellcaster / Effect ATK 2500 / Def 1300. In a single move, I just summon 3 level 6 monsters each with a value equal to or above 2000, also with all the summoning the Elden counters on the Rune of Mass just bolstered again, with the counter count at 16 this time. It's time to summon her. Now I know I just started the festival, but it's time to welcome the second challenge for you to overcome Joey. Using my 3 new monsters I build the overlay network. My words cause a new starry vortex to appear in the sky over the red dunes. Unlike Raiden's vortex, it stays in the sky and from it glows a pale blue light which bathes everything in gentle blue hues. The 3 followers of their dear lady proceed to travel to the vortex in different methods. Blad the Juggernaut simply leaps to the vortex before disappearing. Celavus seems to fade in a mote of blue light before appearing and disappearing like a phantom through the air towards the vortex. Iji acts the simplest. He walks under the vortex and raises his large hammer into the vortex and uses it as an anchor to lift himself and his hefty frame into the vortex. Using these 3 monsters I XYZ summon the sister of General Raiden, Lunar Princess Rani. The vortex starts to shrink in form before a single entity seems to float down from the vortex as weightless as a snowflake in the breeze. The vortex behind her starts to collapse before producing an airwave which makes all clouds in the night sky scatter to reveal the image of the glowing full moon behind her form on the field. She floats towards the ground and with a wave of her hand a throne of crystal grows from the ground on which she sits upon. A pair of her arms are crossed while her second pair of hands are forming an arch. She peers at the world from beneath her large white hat to reveal her doll-like face and ghostly twin face. Lunar Princess Rani Water Spellcaster / XYZ / Effect ATK 3000 / Def 4500. The reaction to Rani is akin to a stun bomb on the field, just her sheer presence is like the moon, untouchable and unknowable, also the fact her defense is high enough to outright block Obelisk the Tormentor with room to spare. With her here I shall continue. From my hand I play Nokron the Eternal City. Rani closes her eyes and waves her arm. From the edge of everyone's eyes a gigantic meteor appears in the night sky and streaks across the sky to strike down on the Redmina Castle in the background. This impact causes a monumental dust cloud to form, obscuring the whole arena. When it fades away it reveals that the world around us has changed to a mirage-like image of a silver city under twinkling lights. Nokron, the Eternal City spell / ritual. For the cost of sending my field card to the grave it allows me to ritual summon to the field the mimic tear. My words herald the appearance of a pool of silver liquid from the dust of the maroon dunes around us. It doesn't look intimidating in comparison to everything else on the field. You destroyed your overpowered field card to summon a silver puddle right after summoning that witch lady. Let me guess, it's really powerful. His words are cut off as the stats of the mimic tear become apparent. Mimic tear? Dark, / ritual / effect ATK, / def. The little puddle has no stats, and it confuses Joey, but I explain. Well, yes, its values aren't amazing right now, but its main effect makes up for that. When it's summoned it allows me to essentially copy any monster on the field, so I'll have it copy Raiden's visage. The mention that this card could just copy anything makes everyone pause, but people become amazed as the pool starts to animate and form into a silver-like copy of Raiden's form and all before changing color to become an identical copy of the Star Scourge. Scarlet Maddened Raiden, Mimic Tear, Warrior / XYZ / Effect ATK? 2600. The strength of my field is daunting, but everyone is curious. Why didn't I copy the Moon Demigod but instead the weakened Raiden? But to me my actions always have reasons. Now for the battle phase, I'll have the Mimic Tear take out Guilford, Raiden to take out Yurgenzo and Rani to obliterate the Insect Queen. My pair of Raidens go on a rampage upon the field riding Lennox to victory while in the back line. Rani gives a smirk before pointing her hand towards the Insect Queen. The reaction is instant as she casts a comet as a death laser which just zaps the bug from existence. The battle of the Raidens is more emotive as they go to swing at their opponent like mirrors of each other. The monsters in question try to stop the rampage in different ways. Guilford blocks by using his great sword to block the strike while Jinzo projects a psychic barrier to block the attack. As expected, trying to use willpower against a man who held the stars at bay while under the effects of Scarlet Rot is pointless as the Titan's swing breaks through the barrier, breaking the form of the monster. On Guilford's side though, he uses his experience and the weakness that he knows he's fighting something akin to a copy of Raiden to take it down. Guilford pivots from the defense of the strike to leap onto the blade of the Mimic Tear before running along it towards the body. With great agility, even in his older age he's able to use his great sword to strike again into the chest of the Raiden. but something he didn't account for is that Raiden is actually extremely smart even in his maddened state, so he uses the mirroring action of the mirror tear to puppet it to keep fighting, which allows it to strike at Guilford when he wasn't expecting it. The mirror tear takes the critical injury, but it raises its other blade and strikes at Guilford. The swordsman goes to dodge the attack, but the mirror tear loses density from the wound, making his escape hampered enough for the mimicked great sword of Raiden to strike him, turning him to pixels. Due to the Raiden festival, Joey doesn't lose any life points, but I get to draw 2 cards. I'll go to main phase 2, I'll play 3 cards face down and end my turn, but due to Redmana Castle being gone, I'll discard some cards until I have 7 left. It's now Joey's turn, and his field now only has the Fire Keeper, his prized red eyes. He draws up to exactly 7 cards, meaning our hands are equal. I'll activate the Fire Keeper's effect. His words are heard by the referee, who goes to roll the die again. The dice are thrown onto the field again and bounce a few times before revealing a 2. The Fire Keeper on the field attends to the bonfire, which produces 2 orbs for the revealed cards, which take form to become visible to everyone watching. Monster Reborn spell. The Ashen 1 Fire Warrior /effect ATK 2400/def 2000. Seeing the pair of cards he just drew, I have to blink a few times, since out of the many cards in his deck and in a 2-card reveal he gets the Ashen 1 and powerful card. Note to self: find out if Joey has a great rune of luck /probability or something of equivalent value in this universe. If yes, steal it and rule the world. Side note, to self: if such an item exists, use it to flex on Cedo just for the fun of it. Not acting like an idiot, Joey picks the Monster Reborn to add to hand, allowing him to special summon the Ashen 1 to the field. From the Fire Keeper's bonfire, a billowing of ash forms around the coiled sword. The ash starts to form into a silhouette which steps out of the flames. The figure's appearance is that of a knight in fluted armor draped in brown cloth adornments, which seems both brand new but rough and frayed on closer inspection. The figure takes a few steps onto the field before kneeling in genuflection to the form of the Fire Keeper. She in response extends her hand, allowing the knight to offer their own to her offering. After that, the knight stands before drawing their sword, ready for a fight against a pair of bosses like all those that stood in their path before. From my hand, I'll equip the Ashen 1 with Legendary Sword to increase his ATK and defense by 300. Legendary Sword spell /equip. The Ashen 1 sheaths his sword in its scabbard before approaching the Fire Keeper's bonfire. He reaches into the flames before grasping onto something. He slowly extracts his hand from the blaze, and from it in their hand is a rusty and bronze large handle. The more he pulls, the more the sword becomes apparent, its whole body being a rusty and dirty blade full of scars, but the most distinct feature being that its tip is broken and jagged, creating a brutal-looking sword. I recognize the sword. It belonged to an old man who made a promise. Very fitting that the oldest sword of that world would be known as legendary, even if not the most powerful. The Ashen 1 retakes their place on the field before doing the Legion etiquette gesture using the jagged greatsword. The Ashen 1 ATK 2400-2300. Seeing that the Ashen 1 has gained enough strength, I have a feeling what he's gonna do next. I'll have the Ashen 1 take out Raiden for good this time. I sigh at this, since Joey's luck got him this. I can't protect Raiden, so I just watch the duel. Another note to self: find the special effects department and give them raises even if Kaiba disapproves. The Ashen 1 steps forward with determined and experienced steps. This isn't the first giant they defeated, but the main difference between HAREM and Raiden is that Raiden's magic power is way denser. They charge towards the fight regardless. Raiden and Leonard charge towards the newest challenger. The sheer mass behind the charge causes the very arena to shake. His swings are powerful and precise, but the Ashen 1 uses their experience to deftly dodge the swings and strike when they can. They even mainly focus on causing large gashes which make Raiden to bleed. It turns into a situation where in the process of the fight, Raiden progressively slows down due to the energy loss, being only mobile in the fight due to Leonard carrying him upon his back forward. The critical moment occurs when at one point one of the swings of the Ashen 1 finally cuts one of his wrists, making him lose his grasp on his great sword. The loss of his sword makes his whole form become unbalanced, making him open himself up with the next swing, which the Ashen 1 exploits. The Ashen 1 uses the skill of Gale's great sword to leap into the air before plunging directly into the skill of the giant. In a final act of defiance, Raiden swings his limp arm towards the Ashen 1. The large limb meets their helmet and sends it flying, tearing the cloth hood around it. Raiden's form fades into pixels with a prideful smile on his face, which fades with his body. The Ashen 1 is placed on the field unharmed, and they turn towards Joey's field before walking back carrying their blade. Everyone is mostly silent, since unexpectedly the face of the Ashen 1 is revealed to be an exact copy of Serenity. Their hair is cut to fit into the helmet, but everything else is a match for Serenity, who's standing just outside the arena with Joey's other friends, all surprised. Why the hell does she look like my sister? Joey exclaims to the world at its coincidences, but I have two ideas, one okay and the other which is way worse. I just shrug and send Raiden's card to the grave, as well as Raiden Festival which has a clause which removes it when Raiden is defeated. Arg, I'll sort that out later, for now, I have to duel, I'll activate the Ashen One's effect, I'll remove Insect Queen from my graveyard from play to roll a die to increase their strength. The Ashen One on the field simply reaches into her pouch on her waist to take out what seems to be a golden flame, she holds it aloft in front of her before crushing it and scattering motes of light which float in the air before seeming towards her. The referee takes out the dice again before rolling it, it lands on a 6. The Ashen One ATK 2700 3000. I'm annoyed at this point, but I can't rewind time and change it. Yet. Anyway, Joey knows he can't continue his battle phase, at this point I make a decision. Joey ends his turn, and I draw 2 cards for my draw phase. I activate Ronnie's effect, by expending an XYZ material it allows her to remove everything in an entire column from the field. Ronnie on the field just shows off a smug grin while everyone is processing the damage she can do. I expend 2 of them to remove both columns with your Red Eyes and Ashen One. At my command Ronnie starts to rise from her throne into the air weightless like a feather, as she rises she raises a pair of her forehands towards her face, she seems to pinch the air with both hands and pulls away. From her actions it's revealed that her XYZ materials are the life in the eyes of her puppet body as the ones in the puppet become grey and lifeless while her spectral face is still vibrant. The puppet pulled out glowing energy orbs before compacting them like snowballs into a bigger snowball before tossing the mass into the air. The orb travels in the air before stopping at a point, everything is silent before a flurry of energy is heard from the orb as a pair of stars of ruin shoot forth from the orb peppering everything in 2 rows of the field. The dragon and knight are no match for the witch's spell and are gunned down by the magic spam. The stars of ruin also destroy Joey's backline to reveal a pair of trap cards, Sakuretsu's armor, and fairy box. Joey watching the knight version of his sister getting gunned down makes him grimace, he now knows he's defenseless since the fire keeper can't be targeted for attacks, so he responds to protect himself. From my hand, I play Scapegoat to fill my field. Scapegoat spell / quick play. With his good timing, he creates 4 tokens that will take some time for Ronnie to butcher, but I have a plan, but it requires a sacrifice. From my hand, I summon adherent Redmane Freya again to the field before I play from my hand the Fingerslayer Blade. Freya's card appears on the field like a tablet before an archway of light appears where she steps through, her steps are heavy, and she slowly approaches Ronnie's side while carrying a black and intimidating dagger which gives off the feeling of being in the presence of ill omen. The Redmane presents the dagger to the princess who takes it with a delicate touch as if touching something which could break if handled too hard. She raises it to her eye level and a smile that could cause wars to be seen again appears on her face, with no words she moves, she starts to float from her throne, while still wielding the Fingerslayer blade she grips the hem of her robe before taking a bow to the field before disappearing into motes of light. Fingerslayer blade spell / ritual. At her disappearance, the crystal throne beneath her starts to quake shaking with the surrounding air. The throne starts to crack and break down as from the sky behind me what seems to be a shooting star seems to be falling towards the field at great speed. This meteor's size scares everyone as it's roughly equal in size to the blimp the arena is on, but I am not deterred. I use the Fingerslayer Blade's second effect, for the sacrifice of a rank 6 or higher XYZ monster it allows me to summon to the field Astal, Voidborn Star. The meteor strikes down onto the field and from it a blast of a deep blue light blinds everyone present. When everyone's sight is returned, they find that the arena now has a roof of glowing blue segments which seem to contain nebulas. Hovering behind me is a gigantic face that can only be described as insectoid but with a giant blue eye which seems to pierce through everything. Astal, Voidborn Starlight Insect / Ritual / Effect ATK 3500 / Def 0. Seeing a monster with more than 3000 attack is less surprising when compared to Ronnie's 4500 defense but most are still getting over the shock of it being so big. Now with Astal on the field we both have to play a bit more openly Joey. My words make him look confused, but the meaning becomes apparent as the segments above me and him lower to be right above us and the nebulas within the segments start to take a card-like forms. We can now both see each other's hands, seeing the cards he has tells me it is not the worst situation, but I see a few possible problems. For the other effect of Astal I see his hand has 2 spell cards, while mine has 3. Not for the battle phase I'll explain Astal's effect. When he attacks I'm allowed to roll 2 6-sided dice and if it's higher than your monster level, they are destroyed outright. This makes Joey have to think before Yugi of the side of the field speaks out. It means whenever Astal battles he could destroy any monster even if he would normally lose the fight, I don't think he would lose most fights with an ATK of 3.5k but met. Due to this effect, it means if Astel would fight your level 1 scapegoat token it would destroy it due to the effect without the need for a roll, but when Astel destroys a monster via its effect, it allows him to attack again at the cost of being able to attack directly for the turn. There isn't a limit on the number of attacks he could do, so all of your goats are going to the butcher in a single turn. My words make him realize the problem as Astel on the field raises one of its skeletal hands before slamming it onto Joey's field before a cascade of energy comes in waves generating shockwaves which just decimate the cute goats. Now with your field free I'll have Freya attack you directly. The warrior readies her great sword before jumping towards Joey and swinging down at him. Joey's LP 3700-1900. After the strike, the warrior returns to my field and keeps her blade ready for the fight to continue. After the battle phase, I'll place 3 cards face down, but you know one is a spell and the others are traps so once they're down I'll end my turn. Joey draws before speaking, just gonna say this reveal deal is more annoying when I don't know what most of your cards do. I retort with a smirk, do you even know what your own cards do? He's silent at that and decides to examine the card he just drew at it. He nods before adding it to his hand. When he does that, I see the card in question and I'm just gonna say at this point his luck is hacks. From my hand, I summon my little wingard in attack position before playing shield and sword to swap the ATK and def of all monsters on the field. Shield and sword spell. The little wingard arrives on the field again and its eyes bulge out like a cartoon character when it sees Astel's form essentially wrap the arena, then the effects of shield and sword activate, and multiple visual effects happen all at once. For the little wingard its blue tunic/armor takes on a red color, for Freya she sheaths her great sword before dual-handing her shield, for the fire keeper she simply raises her blindfold more until it becomes a full crown upon her head to reveal her eyes. The biggest visual change is that the gigantic form of Astel seems to enter a molting phase as its many segments seem to dry up and begin to pale then flake before expanding into what seems to be fur covering its whole body. Little Wingard ATK 1400-1400. The last Fire Keeper ATK 0. Adherent Redman Freya ATK 1800-1500/def 1500-1800. Astel, Voidborn Star ATK 3500 0/def 0. 3500. I'll have my little wingard take out your warrior while the fire keeper can take out your big bug. Honestly, I wanted to see how the little knight would fight the Astel but I can't control Joey's cards, so the little guard charges to do battle with the female warrior. The fight is less of a duel and more of a situation where Freya has to constantly shield bash towards an opponent who's light enough that it won't cause damage but instead just send them back a bit. Even using the shield's Ash of War to deal damage she can't hold off the wingard for too long before it's able to slip under her guard and get its blade through her armor for the death blow. Freya sighs before letting go of her shield before she becomes pixels. Weirdly her shield remains but the little wingard approaches it and picks it up before brandishing it up to the sky. Its own shield seems to disappear and it's now just carrying her shield now which has magically resized to fit the little wingard. My eyes then turn to the last fire keeper who all this time has just knelt next to the bonfire staring into the flames. She cups her hands before reaching into it and grabbing a portion of the flame before raising it to the sky. The portion of the flame floats out from her hands towards a portion of Astel, it hits and Astel's fur catches fire spreading rapidly from strand to strand, segment to segment, limb to limb, until the entire form of Astel is aflame. The giant insect seems to just float there and do nothing while its form burns. This lasts for a while before the sound of cracking is heard, and at that point, the flames start to die down over Astel's whole form. The flames subside to reveal that Astel's whole form is now akin to calcified bones and chitin. Its form is intimidating but another crack is heard a few seconds later. The source becomes obvious when a mandible of Astel breaks from its form and falls to the arena floor. Its movement forms a trend as more and more cracks are heard before Astel's form seems to crumble and fall. Once the whole form is on the arena floor it becomes pixels and disappears. After this Joey ends his battle phase and then realizes something. Oh, I forgot to activate the Fire Keeper, I'll activate her effect. The referee rolls in silence. It flies and jumps before landing on a 1, from his face I can tell Joey isn't happy about that. The Fire Keeper starts her process before revealing a single card that will go into Joey's hand. When I see it, I just sigh at his luck. Choice of the first flame trap. At the sight of the card, all of those on Joey's side erupt in smiles since with this even if I make a comeback, he can summon his god card next turn and beat me. Too bad I'll have to snuff that ember of hope out. I haven't been summoning my monsters and using them imperfectly for a reason. I had to run through these cards for one reason, my god card has some bullshit requirements to be summoned, and when the fire keeper came out I knew it was a race against time until she would pull the Ashen One and the trap, so I knew I needed my own god card to overcome him. I see as Joey places the trap down with a smile, but I speak up, since you're about to summon them, I'll have to summon an opponent to meet their mettle. For this, I activate my trap card Cutting Fate. Cutting Fate Trap. This card allows me to resummon Lunar Princess Rani with this trap and the Fingerslayer blade as XYZ materials. At the end of my words the air around the arena starts to thicken and a haze starts to form on the field. The haze on the field starts to dissipate, but from it reveals a scene that is very 18+ content. Sitting in the middle of the field is Rani, but without her flowing and majestic robes. Her form is naked, revealing her doll joints and ligaments made of leather and ceramic. Her whole form is drenched in red blood, and behind her and me is a monument to a great sin she committed. There stands a pair of the two fingers butchered and dead by her hand. Lunar Princess Rani Water Spellcaster /XYZ /Effect ATK 3000 /Def 4500. Her visage isn't the nicest, but everyone notices how she looks listless and unanimated in her seat, which just makes the whole scene more disturbing. Joey, seeing the threat, isn't happy, but he uses his little Wingard's effect to change it to defense position before coming up with a cunning plan. He speaks. I was saving this, but now is the time. I'll use Monster Reborn to summon the Ashen One to the field. The Ashen One walks back out of the bonfire before standing on the field again ready to battle. Seeing the appearance of the knight he nods before ending his turn, where little Wingard and Firekeeper's stats return to normal. I draw 2 cards since I made sure that Alexander wasn't hit by Rani's past blast. I look at the pair of cards and smirk. Took some time for the pair of them to appear. From my hand, I'll play my Flask of Cerulean Tears to draw 2, then discard 1 card. Now I draw 2 more and see my deck is getting very thin, but it does not matter since this turn will change everything. I discard a certain monster to the grave before continuing. I'll use Rani's effect to destroy the columns with your little Wingard and the Ashen One. At my words Joey nods before speaking. In response I activate Choice of the First Flame. Choice of the First Flame Trap. Due to the chain order, Joey's effect goes first, so I just watch as the last Firekeeper on the field walks towards her bonfire before reaching into its base to cup something in between her hands. Her posture is corrected, but now held within her aged but gentle hands is a bright spark like light which seems to promise everything but at a cost. I'll use the second effect of the trap to tribute the Firekeeper and the Ashen One to summon the Lord of Cinders. The Firekeeper nods solemnly at Joey's words before the Ashen One starts walking towards the extinguished bonfire before gripping onto the coiled sword. In a quick motion she takes the sword and takes staggering steps as if the sword is weighed down by all of the world's sins. Its form physically causes a scar to appear on the arena's surface, each step becoming harder and harder for the Ashen One as she steps towards her Firekeeper, who holds the first flame in her hands. The Firekeeper turns to her knight and gives the most beautiful of smiles to her champion. The scene becomes silent as in a single moment the Ashen One takes a stance before running the Firekeeper and the first flame through with the coiled sword. The Firekeeper is run through with the coiled sword, still with a loving smile never leaving her face. With her hands now free of the first flame which is slowly lighting up the coiled sword, she raises her hand and caresses it against the Ashen One's face before her form starts to become like ash, flaking away before disappearing, leaving only a silver crown on the arena floor. The Ashen One reaches down before picking up the Firekeeper's crown and placing it upon her helm. Her form is starting to alight in flames, burning away her brown cloth armor and slowly warping her armor in form. It only takes a few seconds for the Ashen One to be consumed and for the Lord of Cinders to take her place on the field. To signal his arrival, in the background of the arena in the night sky appears the bleeding eclipse symbol. Lord of Cinders Fire God /Fusion /Effect ATK /Def 2500. The brutal ritual to summon the god was silence-inducing. Honestly, I wish it wasn't as brutal, but I knew once she held the flame her fate would be sealed to 2 outcomes: either she blankets the world in darkness or is killed by the Ashen One. I realized it when the card's art has her holding the flame. I'm looking over to Yugi's gang, especially to Bakura, whose face is one of shock at the appearance of a new god card. Well, he and the Egyptian siblings will have to pick their jaws from the floor since it's not just gonna be one. After the appearance of the Lord of Cinder, the sound of snapping is heard behind me. I turn my head to find out that the corpse of the 2 fingers has started to collapse onto the field, and both of the limbs are starting to fall over, especially onto the columns with the little Wingard and where the Ashen One was. The pair of fingers dissolve into pixels, revealing everything in those columns to have been crushed and destroyed by Rani's effect. Also due to Rani's effect, her ATK and defense are lowered to 2000. Also the Lord of Cinder's ATK is calculated. Lunar Princess Rani ATK 3000 2000 /Def 4500 2000. Lord of Cinder's ATK 3200. Congrats on summoning the god card, Joey. I honestly didn't know if you had it in you to summon one, maybe that's why people call you the third best duelist in the world. My words come out and both flatter and annoy Joey. Now it's time. It's time to experience the meeting of two gods. Joey, do you feel the anticipation in the air? From my hand, I play Dark Moon Ring. Dark Moon Ring spell. I play the card, and it appears on the field in card form. This card requires Astal in the grave and Rani on the field, but it allows me to special summon my own god card. From the card on the field, a knight in the Raging Wolf armor set appears carrying a bastard sword infused with magic. Their steps are heavy as they approach Rani's form. Once they reach her form, they kneel to her and cusp one of her hands before placing the Dark Moon Ring upon her finger. When it's upon her finger, the doll's form reawakens as if awakened from a deep sleep, and Rani's original outfit forms from magic around her, rejuvenating her. She smiles to the Tarnished before producing using magic a great teal great sword which hums with raw magical power. The Tarnished discards his old weapon before picking up the Dark Moon great sword and turning towards the Lord of Cinder. Rani for her part starts to float before hovering behind the Tarnished and landing on his back, acting like a cloak for her consort, just like Miquella does for Raiden. In the sky behind the pair of consorts is the depiction of a full dark moon giving off a gentle glow encompassing all in a gentle but indifferent blue hue. The appearance of the pair of contrasting celestial phenomena in the sky clash at the center point of the field, causing a battle of blue and red to form in the sky. Moonlit Tarnished Lord Dark God /XYZ /effect ATK /def. Lunar Princess Rani ATK 2000 4500. Most jaws are on the floor from the appearance, but I need to continue speaking. When this god card is summoned, it is allowed to take 4 monsters from my graveyard before adding them to itself as XYZ materials. Another note is that this god card's ATK and defense are equal to the combined ATK and defense of all its materials. I collect 4 monsters from the grave before revealing them. Astal, Voidborn Star ATK 3500/def 0. Starscourge Raiden ATK 3000/def 3000. Shadow Wolf Blad ATK 2000/def 1000. Trusty Patches ATK 1200 3600. The 4 cards are revealed before being placed under my god card, changing its stats. Moonlit Tarnished Lord ATK 10900/def 7600. I laugh maniacally at my 10k attack god card. I'll be honest, I really wanted to see how high this god card could go, but my laughing stops when I notice something both interesting and intimidating. You would think a god card with over 10k attack would have the largest field presence between 2 god cards, but I notice how the Dark Moon and the Eclipsed Sun haven't changed in dynamics at all, and when I look towards the Lord of Cinders it becomes apparent why. Lord of Cinder ATK 3200 10600. The sight causes me to pause since it should be reacting like that is until I remember the specific wording of the god card. It gains 200 ATK per all monsters on the field, not just those in a position to attack, meaning it also counts monsters used for XYZ materials as well. When I count the levels of those monsters used for the XYZ materials with the boost from the Moonlit Tarnished Lord, it equals 10,600. What are the chances the god card with the hidden effect to just dunk on XYZ monsters fights an XYZ god card? I blame Joey's luck, but too bad it is not enough. I'll end this duel, Joey. I'll have my god card take down yours. My words herald the battle of gods. The Tarnished Lord brandishes his Dark Moon great sword towards the Lord of Cinder, who readies his coiled sword for the clash. The battle starts with the pair of combatants starting by swinging their blades, causing magical slashing of moonlight and fire to be sent towards their opponent, each slash clashing against each other, diffusing each other's powerful slashes. The duel of magical slashes continue for a moment as the pair are very equal in overall power, but sadly it's not a 1v1, it's a 1v2. From her position, Rani raises her hand towards the Lord of Cinder before firing a comet as a beam towards the Lord of Cinder, which forces the Burning Lord to block using his sword to deflect the beam to the side. It distracts them for a moment, causing the Moonlit Tarnished to take a few steps forward while still swinging magical slashes, applying pressure on the Lord of Cinders. This dynamic continues with Rani interfering in the swing of blade to allow her consort to advance. With each step, the Dark Moon phenomena behind the Tarnished Lord starts to overwhelm the barrier line between the pair of gods phenomena. As the Tarnished Lord reaches Joey's field, their pair of gods finally enter a bout of melee. The Lord of Cinder is the accumulation of uncountable warriors who link the flame battles in a style that can only be described as chaotic adaptability. Each swing of its coiled sword is different from the last, aiming to deal the most damage, and after such a swing the Lord would change its style on a dime to fit its new position, be it offensive or defensive. The Tarnished Lord wields his great sword with graceful and fluid moments for a weapon of that size. Each swing flows into the next one, applying constant pressure like a cascading waterfall of blows. whenever the Lord of Cinder tries to make a difference the Dark Moon Greatsword glows and from it an arc of grand magical might acts to close the gap between the pair, keeping the pressure making it too hard for the Lord of Cinder to make any major change. All the while Rani on the back of her consort uses her magic to funnel away the tremendous heat which the Lord of Cinder is producing, for each swing of the coiled sword causes the Lord of Cinder to burn brighter to overcome the other god, but Rani is making it, so the heat doesn't become crippling. The duel lasts for only a minute, but for those watching it feels like an hour has passed as the pair clash swords and magic in an intense display. After a great blow from the Tarnished Lord, the Lord of Cinder staggers back and crouches in a stunned state. Taking the opportunity, the Tarnished Lord and Rani channels their collective powers into the great sword before thrusting into the chest of the Lord of Cinder. The thrust causes a bright flash of blue light to appear, blinding everyone, but once everyone's vision is returned it is revealed that a large portion of the Lord of the Cinder's torso is just gone. The ancient being is silent, but even it knows that this is the end of battle, so in a final act it lets go of the coiled sword before reaching the sky as if in longing before its form starts to decay and collapse. With the fall of the Lord of Cinder, Joey's wide open and I speak, "Now I'll have Rani attack directly for the win." Joey raises his head, forgetting Rani is her entity on the field still able to attack, so he realizes he's lost as a blue sniper-like beam hits him in the head, dealing the last blow. Joey's LP, 1900 greater than 0. Drogon wins. Chapter 45 Relit Kindling. After the end of the duel I look towards Joey, he and his friends eye me as they approach him to console him, but I simply smile and I approach. Once I'm face to face with him, I extend my hand forward towards him, palm up. My pose causes confusion to show on his face, but I speak. "I said I wouldn't take the Lord of Cinder, but I still need to take a card, so hand me the Fire Keeper." My statement causes Joey and his friends to frown, but probably the one looking the worst would be Serenity, since it's her card. With great reluctance and some pointless statements that it's not his to give, which I tune out, I stay firm and silent waiting for the card. He fishes it out of his deck and hands it to me. With her in my palm I finally understood what was causing me to be so polite to her. Now I would be polite to a woman who was willing to give everything for her partner, but even I could tell something was off with all the emotions I felt towards them. With a small chuckle, I look at her spirit form, who also has a light smile on her lips. "Want to know something interesting about this card, Joey?" This catches his attention from the depression he enters from losing his sister's card to listen to me. "Well, it's very simple really. From where these cards are from, the first flame had led a countless amount of people over countless years to their deaths. Each of these people has names and fancy titles, from simple men to grand gods. But also, in that world, there was one title that never faded from in the time from the start till the end of the flame's life." I send a mental message to Miquella and Moke, who I can sense tilt their heads before shrugging and doing what I request. Behind me a blood-red rune starts to form in the air. The very air seems to become denser as I hold the Fire Keeper card by each top corner of the card. I then start to rip the card in half in front of Joey. "Whoa, what the hell are you doing?" Joey starts to go into a rage but pauses as he spots something. Behind me stands the phantom form of the Fire Keeper, visible to everyone in a semi-solid form. I rip the card vertically in front of everyone, but the form of the Fire Keeper behind me stays the same. I realized during the duel when the Time Wizard did its magic, the card is not of the Fire Keeper as an entity, it's the title's legacy made manifest, which means it's not complete yet. I take the pair of ripped pieces and move them away from each other. As they are separated, the card in question shimmers in light, and now in a pair of my hands are two different cards, but each technically depicts the same character. The Fire Keeper Fire Saint / Tuner / Effect ATK 0 / Def 100. The Last Fire Keeper Fire Spellcaster / Tuner / Effect ATK 0 / Def 100. Seeing the shock on Joey's face, I smirk, and that's just the last one. Each had their story to tell. I palm the last Fire Keeper before ripping the Saint Fire Keeper card again and again. Each time in a shimmer of mirage-like light another card is formed. This happens 6 more times, but with each rip a new figure appears behind the last Fire Keeper behind me. The last rip though interests me, since sadly the Fire Keeper card is destroyed and spent forming the other cards, but in its place is a lady and her loyal knight who appears in token form. Blind Irina and Stalwart Egan Earthfiend / Tuner / Effect ATK 2000 / Def 1600. Emerald Herald Shawnalati Fire Dragon / Tuner / Effect ATK 1100 / Def 1600. Dark Moon Knight Fina Fire Warrior / Tuner / Effect ATK 1600 / Def 1500. Crippled Anastasia Fire Fairy / Tuner / Effect ATK 0 / Def 500. The Three Crones Fire Zombie / Tuner / Effect ATK 1600 / Def 1500. The Fair Lady Fire Insect / Tuner / Effect ATK 0 / Def 2000. Thorn Knight Kirk Dark Warrior /token /effect ATK 1500 /def 1000. The congregation of women behind me each show a smile upon their faces, be it that of a humorous grin from the crones or a sad but hopeful one from the mute Anastasia. Each one has a smile, for in a world of utter bleakness and misery their kind souls have lit the way for their champions and downtrodden. With the release of the Fire Keepers from the card, I take a look at the last Fire Keeper and watch as her card changes back into the original Fire Keeper card, meaning the card just represents her now and not all of the Fire Keepers. I collect the 8 cards, letting the rune and the phantoms fade before handing them to Joey. As I do, I feel a slight prick of heat appear below the 8 cards. I go to check, but I feel a hand on my shoulder from behind me. I peer to the side and see a green-robed woman with a finger on her lip to indicate silence before whispering a word into my ear. I just smile before speaking to Joey. As a statement, you should hand them back to your sister. Since you're out of the tournament, there isn't a reason for you to use them, is there? I say this before going to the elevators. I go down towards the lobby. When I'm there, the place is silent. Oh yeah, me and Joey just pulled out god cards and they had no idea there were more god cards in play. I'm already on all of their shit lists, so I don't care. I go raid the buffet table and just hang with Patches, who looks like he's about to be sent to the gallows with the amount of sweating he's been doing. What's wrong, pal? He looks at me with a jittery look. The moment Kaiba and Pegasus saw the god cards, they started to hound me for answers. Since I'm associated with you, I swear if I wasn't still in the tournament, Kaiba would have had me head on a pike, since I don't snitch on pals. I grow a smirk. Correction, pals, you owe something too. He just gives a wave of annoyance at that but doesn't correct me. How persistent are they? Hollow? Undead dog? Angel of Launder. He sighs before speaking. Angel of Launder, if they see ye, run like the wind, chum. I laugh at that, since it's kind of impossible to run away from Seto Kaiba on his own blimp, maybe a Shizu with her future sight, but me nah. The ball machine in the center of the room activates this, drawing everyone's attention. It turns out that Yugi and his friends have arrived, so the drawing could continue. The machine produces a sphere which the guard collects. Observing the sphere, the guard next throws it into the crowd. This time the person who catches the sphere is fully robed, whose is mostly hidden under his cloak. He catches the sphere in one hand, and it depicts a pair of hands hovering over a crystal ball. The first duel list of the next round is Fortune Salim, and their opponent is. As he says this, the machine produces the next sphere, which he throws away from the crowd this time. It's caught by the sole last remaining female duel list in the tournament. Guinevere catches the sphere and holds it to reveal the sphere's symbol of a half-skull, half-helmet with a back emblem of raised wings behind the skull and helmet. Guinevere. Can both opponents make their way to the arena for their duel? Chapter 46, Angelic Knights on Clouds. I just watch the screen for the duel to start. I do keep an eye out for certain nosy people, but I just want to watch how Guinevere would duel someone who I have no idea about besides the data I pinched from Kaiba's database a while back. What you thought? If I had access to useful information with no downside, I wouldn't take the low-hanging fruit. All I know is she'll win, but it's gonna be a boring duel for a while. That kind of happens when a Sanctuary in the Sky deck fights against another fairy-type archetype. While I wait for the duel to start, I realize something. True Merrick hasn't dueled yet. The odds were 1 in 3 that she could have just dueled him for her revenge, but the odds weren't in her favor. I mentally chuckle at that and look at the other last competitor, who now has to duel Merrick. Just gonna say fate is cruel in some ways. My gaze returns to the screen, which now depicts the pair of duelists ready for their duel. POV change, Guinevere. Whose grand idea was it to have the duels on a flying blimp? Was it that crazy dude? Now Guinevere is a woman with a fortified will, and she shows it in her words, but it turns out even she has fears. It just turns out that a fear of falling off great heights is less pronounced when inside a flying ship, instead of being exposed on top of said flying ship to high-strength winds which could send you flying off in turbulence. She wouldn't say it, but she wouldn't have stepped outside unless one of her spirits blatantly told her if she fell, they would catch her and glide her to safety. She's still not 100%, but she still gets ready for the duel. The duel discs activate when she faces the robed man. Honestly, she thinks this guy would be working for Merrick, but since Merrick and Odeon are both here, it's not likely. Duel start. Salim's LP, 4000. Guinevere's LP, 4000. Salim starts by drawing. For his first turn he doesn't speak, but he does place a monster face down in defense as well as a card in his back row before pressing the button for Guinevere's turn. She draws for her own turn before smirking. From my hand, I reveal both Hecatrice and Zeradios, which both have effects to discard them to retrieve cards from my deck. Zeradios, Herald of Heaven Hecatrice. Now from my hand, I'll play one of those revealed cards to be Valhalla, Hall of the Fallen, which has an effect which allows me to special summon a fairy if I don't control one already. Valhalla, Hall of the Fallen spell / continuous. Behind Guinevere, a chamber of marble and red flowing cloth which drape across the marble face appears with a distinct throne being present as the center point of the hall. Now I'll use Valhalla to special summon Air Knight Parshath from my hand without tribute cost. Appearing from behind a hallway in the marble chamber which was obscured by the red cloth is a centaur in blue and white armor, his long sword and large shield suited for an equestrian warrior such as him. He slowly gallops to her field and readies for battle by brandishing his weapon. Air Knight Parshath Light Fairy / Effect ATK 1900 / Def 1400. Seeing her hand, she wished she had another monster to summon but she just continues her turn. Now for the battle phase I'll have Parshath attack your monster, also when he does so he'll be using his effect to deal damage equal to the difference in attack and defense. The knight at her command charges into a gallop and jumps into a strike at the face down card. The strike of the card doesn't cause the card's form to shatter like usual face downs, but it instead releases a font of grey smoke into the face of the knight cloaking his form. Once the smoke dissipates the knight's form is revealed to have a passenger upon the frame of the knight, a figure made out of mist is present latched onto the back of the knight. A vibrant yet mysterious voice is heard from the cloak. Salim, I reveal the monster to be my ghost fog which when destroyed neither player takes any damage involving the Batka while with its destruction allowing it to place fog counters on the field equal to the level of your air knight, I'll just place them on your air knight. Clue Diane, Ghost Fog Water Fiend / Effect ATK and Def 0. The form on the back of the air knight dissipates and changes in form into 5 small fog clouds which float above the air knight's form. Seeing the impact was mitigated, Guinevere isn't happy but she ends her turn there allowing Salim to draw. Salim draws and immediately reveals it to play it. I play Painful Choice, it allows me to take 5 cards from my deck to give you the choice of giving me one of them to my hand. Painful Choice spell. They quickly sieve through their deck and take out 5 cards which are revealed to Guinevere. 3x Clue Diane, Smokeball Water Fairy / Normal ATK 200 / Def 600. 2x Rainstorm Trap. Seeing the choices really just being between 2 different cards with one of them being a normal monster and the other being a powerful trap card, the choice is obvious for Guinevere. She chooses the smoke ball. Salim simply adds it to his hand and discards the rest, he then silently places another face-down monster and backline card before ending his turn. Guinevere tilts her head at her opponent's minimalistic communication play style, but she draws for her turn anyway, seeing it's a monster she's happy. From my hand, I summon to the field Shining Angel in attack position. Similar to the air knight, a figure walks out from behind one of the red draping cloths to reveal a very standard-looking angel with white wings and a toga. Shining Angel Light Fairy / Effect ATK 1400 / Def 800. My air knight will attack the face-down monster, then my angel will attack directly. The pair of fairies ready to fight, the knight charges forth again and their weapons strike true into the monster card. This time, it breaks to reveal what appears to be a small white cloud. Upon the field, the cloud which is struck by the knight seems to simply split into 2 smaller clouds which remain on the field. Other than that confusing Guinevere, her air knight just returns to her field without inflicting pierce damage. Clue Diane, Sheep Clouds effect creates 2 Clue Diane fog tokens when sent to the grave, also I take no damage due to a card I activated in response to the attack. He points his hand towards a card which was flipped up to be revealed. Clue Diane, Sheep Cloud Water Fairy / Effect ATK and Def 0. Spirit Barrier Trap / continuous. The field now made so she can't harm him makes Guinevere lose any smirk she had, but she continues the advance since once the tokens are gone, she could just end this. I'll have my angel attack one of your tokens then. Salim says nothing as the angel simply flaps its wings and the Clue Diane token pops like a balloon since it really didn't have any mass. With that, she ends her turn allowing Salim to start their turn again by drawing a card. From my hand, I'll activate the effect of Clue Diane Storm Dragon. By removing Ghost Fog from play in my grave, it allows me to special summon the Storm Dragon to the field. He does this process on his dual disc and plays the card to the field. The clouds above the field start to take on a darker and more aggressive tone. From it, a lithe and serpent-like dragon made of clouds appears before hovering on Salim's field. Clue Diane, Storm Dragon Water Fairy / Effect ATK 1000 / Def 0. Also from my hand, I'll play my Clue Diane Turbulence to the field. When it's summoned it appears with 3 fog counters due to its effect. With his words, the clouds again roll before a living cyclone is formed on the field next to the Storm Dragon. Clue Diane, Turbulence Water Fairy / Effect ATK 800 / Def 0. Floating behind the living cyclone is a trio of little clouds similar to the 5 behind the air knight. For now, I'll have my Storm Dragon use its effect. It's allowed to place a fog counter on a monster once per turn. In this case, I'll target Turbulence. On the field, the dark cloud dragon starts to move and flows in the air to coil around the tornado. It becomes like a dance of the winds, and once the pair separate, there's now a fourth Cludian token floating in the orbit of the living cyclone. I end my turn there. This makes Guinevere a bit confused, with him just leaving a pair of monsters to be destroyed, but she quickly draws and plans her next move. From my hand, I'll summon to my field Cupid Volley in attack position. The light on the field glints for a second before it's revealed. Sitting upon the edge of the Hall of Valhalla's roof is a green-haired girl with a golden bow who's waving down at everyone. Cupid Volley Light Fairy / Effect ATK and Def, 600. I'll activate her effect to allow me to second cards from my deck to the grave to increase her level. I'll decide on 3. Guinevere discards the 3 cards from her deck. She looks at them and becomes conflicted, for sending Avisa's Samsara to the grave and getting rid of a second sanctuary in the sky while she already has one in hand is good for thinning, but in the process, she drew another powerful monster card as well. She discards them regardless. Cupid on the roof knocks a trio of star-tipped arrows, increasing her level to 4. Seeing that I made an effort to get her to level 4, I can see that Salim is watching, expecting me to have one of those bastards XYZs like that Patches guy, but I just go to the battle phase instead. I'll have my Air Knight Parshath attack your Storm Dragon and my Shining Angel attack your Turbulence. At her words, the pair of winged beings charge once again to swat away the clouds. Guinevere keeps an eye on the actions of Salim, but he doesn't react, which confuses her. Her confusion is increased as the pair of fairies strike down at the clouds with enough force to tear right through them, but a few seconds after their strikes, the cloud beings in question just reform as if nothing happened to them. She's silent, trying to think about what happened, but Salim speaks. Most Cludians can't be defeated in attack position, and due to Spirit Barrier I take no damage. Learning that his clouds are sticking around, and she can't just target Salim instead, makes Guinevere's brow crease in contemplation. I'll have Cupid Volley take down your remaining Cludian sheep token. She says this since it's the only thing she can do, and she knows the token can be defeated. It's the most she can do really to just limit him in this situation. The archer raises her bow, and in a rain of golden light, 3 arrows strike into the token, dispersing the cloud from the field. In this situation, play a card face down, then end my turn. Being Salim's turn again, he draws. In swift movements he nods before looking to his field. I'll activate the Storm Dragon to add another fog counter onto Turbulence, then I'll activate Turbulence's effect by removing a fog counter from it. I'm allowed to special summon a smoke ball from anywhere, in this case, the grave. The Storm Dragon looks towards its fellow Cludian before spewing a fog cloud, which is sent directly into the vortex of the living cyclone. After a few seconds, from the same entrance a small yellow being appears who just seems happy to be there. Cludian, Smokeball Water Fairy / Normal ATK 200 / Def 600. From my hand I'll also summon to the field another Smokeball, to be exact the one you gave me before. From his words, another smoke ball just appears like a mirage, and upon seeing the other smoke ball they congregate before doing an aerial dance in joy. Now I'll have my Storm Dragon take down your archer. From his words, the Cupid Volley with quick reflexes notching 3 of her arrows on the bow, aiming for the Storm Dragon, which has started to move towards her. As the menacing cloud billows towards her, she quickly tilts her bow skyward before disappearing in the cloud's embrace. The air force of the cloud is sent towards Guinevere, making her take some damage. When she does, though, the sound of a released bow is heard. The 3 arrows glow brightly in the cloud and become shooting stars, which disappear behind the larger clouds into the night sky. Due to the effect of Cupid Volley, when she's sent to the graveyard, she heals me for 1500 life points, reducing the damage I would have taken. Guinevere's field is coated in some trailing stardust for a visual effect of good fortune. Guinevere's LP 4000 5100. Salim is silent at that, but he continues to play. From my hand, I play a pair of cards called Lucky Cloud. As long as I summoned a pair of the same Cludians this turn, I can draw 2 cards for each at my end step. I'll end my turn after this card is played, so I can draw 4. 2x Lucky Cloud spell. Watching her opponent refill his hand with new cards makes her worried, but since he had to end his turn to draw, it means it is now her turn, so she draws her card. The monster depicted on the card causes her smile to emerge, as she now has a tuner, and luckily, she has some materials to do some synchro summoning. From my hand, I summon to the field Butin. In a sudden poof of smoke, a small pink pig fairy springs into existence, floating in the air at eye level to the Air Knight. Its face is a depiction of menace and determination. Well, as much menace and determination a floating pig angel can depict. Butin Light Fairy / Tuner / Effect ATK 200 / Def 300. I was expecting Salim to have a reaction to the summoning to Buten, but then I remember the cloud babies he has on his field and realize he can't complain. Now on my field, I tune my level 4 Shining Angel with my level 1 tuner Buten. Buten on the field puffs out a small cloud of breath from its snout in determination, while the Shining Angel simply smiles at the antics of the pig angel before flying into the sky and becoming transparent to reveal 4 stars. Buten for its part also goes transparent to form a single ring. The pair of phenomena interlock and a flash of light is formed which blinds most people present. I synchro summon to the field the executor of the underworld, Pluto. Appearing on the field now is a very tall and pale angelic-like being draped in black and golden flowing robes. His waist-length purple hair and a set of 4 purple wings give off the energy of decay, but his whole form radiates an aura of control with his very presence. The executor of the underworld, Pluto Dark Fairy /Synchro /Tuner /Effect ATK 2300 Def 0. Now Salim reacts. His eyes seem to gain a glint of caution, since with the large amount of new summoning methods being revealed, each one having created monsters with either great strength or great effects. Now I'll use the effect of Pluto. It allows me to pick one monster on the field to be placed in a face-down defense position at the cost of banishing a monster in the grave. Hearing this, Salim's eyes go wide, realizing her thought process. I'll flip your Storm Dragon and banish Shining Angel. Pluto on the field takes a step forward and raises his left arm towards the Storm Dragon. The Storm Dragon in response seems to roar, which produces a sound boom akin to thunder, but in response, the aura of Pluto grows in density upon his palm into a hollow pale purple sphere. I deem thee sentenced for execution. Face your fate under lock and key. Sky Apparition. The Sky Dragon, sensing something's wrong, turns to escape, but as it turns it feels itself being dragged towards the purple sphere in the agent's hand. It only takes a few seconds for the dragon to be sucked up into the sphere like a dust into a vacuum cleaner. The sphere is now dark, containing the Storm Dragon. Pluto simply sends the orb floating towards Salim's field. A card appears on his field, but the sphere containing the cloud just floats over in a imprisoned state. I'll next have my Parshath attack your face-down Storm Dragon and Pluto to take out one of your smoke balls. With a wave of his hand, a purple bolt of energy is sent from Pluto, dissipating the smoke ball, but said same movement was akin to setting Parshath forth the execute the Sky Dragon. The knight in question takes methodical steps with his equine legs to the orb containing rolling storms before cleaving down like a headsman's axe. The orb doesn't seem to be cut, but the action of the attack causes an effect elsewhere. Upon the field, the Cloud Dragon's card is flipped up into face-up defense position. Once Parshath turns around to return to Guinevere's field, the orb starts to glow in a bright light before exploding on the field. Wishing she could destroy more monsters, Guinevere simply places one card face down in the back line before ending her turn, allowing Salim to draw. On my field, I'll use Turbulence's effect to summon to the field 2 smoke balls from my grave at the cost of 2 of its fog counters. A pair of the fog counters floating around the living tornado enter into its form, and in a flash of minor light a pair of the small Cludians are ejected from the crown of the tornado onto the field. With all 3 of the smoke balls on the field, the trio congregate and start seemingly dancing around happily in the air. Next I'll tribute all 3 of the smoke balls to summon from my hand Cludian Nimbusman. The trio of small smoke balls nod to each other before floating up into the cloud layer above the blimp. After a few seconds, a humanoid being made of clouds breaches out from the cloud layer to now stand on Salim's field. The most distinct feature is the large cranium of the Cloud Man. Cludian, Nimbusman Water Fairy /Effect ATK and Def 1000. Due to Nimbusman's effect, it gains a fog counter for each monster used for tribute. Also for each fog counter on the field it gains 500 ATK. The form of the Cloud Man seems to slightly split as a trio of fog counters appear to orbit the Cloud Man before its physical form starts to grow in size to become gargantuan in size. Cludian Nimbusman ATK 1000 6000. Seeing the giant size and attack power of the Cloud, Guinevere responds. I activate my trap card Compulsory Evacuation Device, to return your Nimbusman to your hand. Compulsory Evacuation Device Trap. The card appears on the field and from it shoots out a ring-like device which flies like a saucer towards the Cloudman. Understanding this would remove his Nimbusman from the field, Salim quickly responds as well by speaking, I'll reveal my trap card, Solemn Judgment, to negate your trap at the cost of half my life points. The ring-like device, which was flying through the air in an act of divine prominence, is struck by a lightning bolt, causing the whole device to explode like a target in skeet shooting. Solemn Judgment Trap / Counter. Salim's LP 4000 2000. Having her trap cancelled like that makes Guinevere scowl, but she has little time to ruminate on it since Salim presses the attack. I'll have my Nimbusman attack your Pluto to get rid of it. The living Nimbus cloud starts its approach on the field. It rears back its gigantic fist before swinging it towards the purple-haired angel. As the arm of rolling clouds is about to strike the angel, a pair of golden-tipped wings appear from behind the form of Pluto and goes to cover his form. The wings generate a barrier of golden light with parts the fist of clouds which has enough force to continue flowing past them akin to a rock in a river. Once the clouds dissipate, it reveals Pluto still standing there unharmed with another angel standing behind the agent with grand wings with tips of gold. I won't be losing Pluto that easy. I activate from my hand Honest, which increases Pluto's ATK equal to Nimbus Man's ATK. She speaks out loud, but inside she's still hating that trap card, which makes it so Salim takes no damage. The Nimbus Man reforms on the Veiled Man's field with a face that promises no limit to its rage at being denied, but Salim, it doesn't take long for Salim to continue. He places one card face down before ending his turn. This causes a smile to develop on Guinevere's face as she draws. Seeing the card, her smile widens even more. From my hand, I'll play Card of Demise to fill my hand. Playing this, she draws 4 cards to have 5. Card of Demise spell. With more cards, she continues her turn, but with a single card in her hand she knows she won, but only if she can play it, so with the other cards she formulates a plan. Next, I'll summon to the field Cupid Serve. Stepping out from behind a marble pillar is a brown-haired lady in yellow robes with a large bow and quiver. Distinctly, the arrows are tipped with yellow orbs all ready to be launched. Cupid Serve Light Fairy / Effect ATK 1000 / Def 600. Next, I'll use the effect of both Cupid Serve and Button in my graveyard. By banishing Button and 3 other cards, Cupid Serve will gain 3 levels and become a tuner monster for the turn. She goes to banish a pair of spells in her grave and Button from play, the result being that Serve on the field has now notched up to 3 arrows which are all glowing in a bright light. Now I'll tune my level 5 Parshath with Cupid Serve, to summon a level 10 Synchro monster. Hearing this, Salim's eyes widen, since it must be powerful if it requires that many levels. The monsters in question travel into the air, forming stars and rings before, in a flash of light, a hulking form of metal and golden energy is just standing on the field, looming like a statue. I synchro summon Manadium Prime Heart. Manadium Prime Heart Light Fairy / Effect / Synchro ATK and Def 3000. With the summoning of Manadium Prime Heart, all the fog counters on Parshath are removed, reducing your Nimbus Man down by 2500. At her words, the world reacts. The gigantic Nimbus Man seems to rumble in power, and with a face like it's got a stomachache, it goes to belch. In a booming shockwave and the sound of lightning, the cloud giant belches out a bolt of condensed lightning towards the blimp. Prime Heart, a being made of energy and metal, stands stoically as if it was a lightning rod for the energy which it's attracted before being seemingly just passed through its form harmlessly into the blimp's roof. Next, I'll play from my hand Harpy's Feather Duster, which will clear the field of all your spells and traps. Harpy's Feather Duster spell. Hearing this, Salim's eyes widen, and she can tell he's cursing himself for using the solemn judgment earlier when this is a bigger threat, but he has little time to regret his actions as Pluto on the field goes to move. The purple angel spreads his wings to their full lengths before flapping them forward in a grand gale of magic. The gale passes over the monsters and strikes at Salim's 3 spells and trap cards, which shatter on the field. Now I'll end this quickly. I'll have my Prime Heart attack your turbulence, Guinevere says with a flourish of her arms, pointing to the living tornado still on the field. Salim can do nothing as the living golem seems to charge up with energy, which causes its corona of light to become brighter and brighter. In a display of light, said corona is launched from the golem into the sky towards the living tornado. The corona sparks with energy, and when a normal cloud enters the ring, it just evaporates from existence, disappearing in heated mist. The turbulence tries to escape, but the corona forms a sort of vortex which pulls in the Cludian. It only takes a few seconds, but turbulence is destroyed, disappearing from the field. After consuming the Cludian, the corona changes target to Salim, where it floats above him akin to a gigantic halo of light. After a few seconds, the corona lights up into a pillar of light, striking Salim for the excess damage. Salim's LP 2000. Guinevere wins. Chapter 47 Mystery Duel List revealed. Back to MC POV. Watching Guinevere take down that robed guy was boring, mainly because, to be honest, fairy decks are known for being life point sponges in different ways. Sure, it's possible to take them down, but they either hoard LP like it's gold or make it so no damage is dealt to them. Hell, the earliest pair notorious perfect block monsters, Marshmallow and the Fool, are both fairies. I yawn, since at this point it's getting pretty late. I'm 40% sure the blimp is nearing morning. It's hard to tell the time on a moving airship which is flying over water right now. It's not like the time zones are dotted out on the ocean's surface. I could just go to a terminal and check, but then I realize I don't care enough to step away from the spread. I hear the ding of the elevator, which opens to reveal Guinevere and Salim. They don't seem to be interacting really, they just took the same elevator. I just shrug before taking more food. At this point I think it's enough food. while I will admit the spread was great at first, it soon became a thing where the demigods were asking for a taste since their whole palate is different and they were curious. I could just grab some of the food then send it to them, but the sight of food just disappearing isn't normal, so I've been pretending to eat it then and make them disappear into my soulscape as they pass the mouth. Just gonna say they like the lobster, way it's better than the lands between lobster, maybe because these lobsters aren't brought up on swamp water full of muck, that or it might be because spices are a undeveloped concept in the lands between. Yeah, when I found that the best they had were herbs, I went over my thoughts of the lands between, where it only took a few seconds to realize why that happened. It doesn't have a tropical biome to cultivate any of the tropical spices like nutmeg or cumin. It was funny seeing the eyes of Raiden, Ronnie, and Rykard light up when they tasted the spiced lobster claw from the spread. When I saw the look on Ronnie's face was one step away from those anime meme where a single bite would just make clothes explode, I felt some pity for the demigods. Anyway, I hear from the head of the room the machine activating for the 8th time. Obviously this draws the attention of everyone. I put my plate down on the table and go to move towards a planned location. Again the machine activates and it produces the 15th ball from the tumbler. The guard quickly takes the ball and throws it towards a person of nuble skin and grey hair. The sphere in question reveals a hourglass symbol with a 3D illusion where depending on the light it's full or draining into the other chamber. The next duel list in the tournament is Namu. Now the final duel list is. Hey, what's wrong with the machine? He starts to speak as when not as he expected the machine just stands still instead of producing the 16th duel list for the tournament. The guard in question turns to the machine's data terminal where he seems to press some keyboard buttons on the interface, before a big red image is depicted on the screen. I gain a slight smirk as I see Sito himself walk up the guard and just slaps him to the side before interacting with the machine. I glance at Patches from across the room and our smiles are mirror images of each other. At this point take a few steps towards the machine. With how everyone is focused on the machine and Sito fixing it, my steps are easily noticed. Sito finally notices my approach when I'm about 4 meters from him. At that point I speak. Oh sorry Sito, my bad. When I was setting up all the custom spheres in the machine earlier it seems I only put 15 in the machine. It's not working since there's not a ball to be produced. I say with a faked apologetic tone in my voice. With a sharpness that could cut glass he turns to me and speaks, then where is the last sphere and who's the last duel list? We can't wait all day and none of your tricks, clown. I sigh before reaching into my coat to take out the 16th sphere. I hold it aloft into a spotlight aimed at the machine. This reveals that the sphere in question is actually pitch black with no discernible images on it like the other and speak. Don't worry, it's here. The only thing is though, it's more of a wild card. I spin the sphere on the tip of my finger like a basketball. Simply this sphere is sort of redemption/random sphere. Whoever catches it once I throw it is allowed to enter the tournament as the 16th finalist. As I say this some of the eyes of those who lost light up in hope while I get a feeling of annoyance from Sito, since he quickly realizes this was the reason it wasn't in the machine in the first place. I raise my arm into a throwing motion and hold it there for a few seconds. This allows those who are interested in a second chance at the tournament to prepare. I throw the ball and outside of everyone else's expectations the ball is sent flying into one of the walls of the hall where it bounces massively from wall to floor to ceiling, acting like a extremely bouncy ball. Of course me, Patches, the demigods and Fortisax are all cracking smiles at the chaos the small sphere is causing. All the while I keep tabs on the sphere as it bounces. At one point in its multiple bouncing paths which I specifically enchanted to dodge people know involved in the tournament it's sent hurtling towards Serenity for some reason. I course correct the sphere mid-path since even with the fire keepers ready to snuff out a sun god, it's not wise to risk Merrick getting access to a unbound god card even if he can't even use it in the game. As it turns out my course correction affected the sphere again but this time sent it nearly into the reach of the other Wheeler sibling, so as Joey actually dives to the ground trying to catch the sphere which just went between Serenity's legs I just speed up the ball so he barely misses it. The reason I did this is the same as Serenity, she would give the cards to Joey who would in turn lose the god card. Yet it was okay giving the goon the magical nuke when I was dueling him but giving the goon a magical nuke when he's fighting someone who would take it, isn't in my plan. Now if I wasn't alone and this internal monologue was broadcasted to other, at this point, they would think what about the randomness of the tournament's sphere selection. At this I would slap with a simple statement, I'm not stupid. The moment the Dark Soul cards were in play I made it so Joey needed to be kicked out of this tournament ASAP without some evil cunt getting them. Or at least someone who won't abuse them. But at that point only me or Guinevere were viable for that but I made a promise to allow her to get a shot at Merrick ergo my duel with him. I end my internal rant and just watch as the sphere is nearing the end of its journey. I have a sly smirk as though a turn of fate the sphere is bounced awkwardly against the rim of a table and launched directly into the chest of someone. who reflexively catches it as their form shrinks inward from impact. Congratulations, the 16th finalist of the Battle City tournament is Mokuba Kaiba. At my words a spotlight appears and illuminates the human hedgehog. Mokuba himself raises his head to notice all the attention is on him for the first time of his life without its involving a kidnapping. With a sideward glance at the state of Sito, I see he's torn between multiple emotions, being a concerned older brother, amusement at the situation we both created, slight greed at sensing an opportunity, and finally a sense of dread targeting both me as well as Merrick, who doesn't notice since he's already turned towards the elevator with some cockiness since he's playing a child. I just watch as Sito and Mokuba group up and walk towards an elevator together. It makes sense the big brother would support the younger even if it's not visible on the outside. I just wait and shovel some chocolate-covered marshmallows into the soul space, which sends the demigods into a second shattering within the soul's cape to claim the treat, since as it turns out chocolate doesn't exist in the lands between. Such a cursed and blighted land they called home. Chapter 48 The Many Faces in Play. POV Mokuba. Catching that sphere was a surprise, but I honestly believe that Drogon guy planned for me to catch the sphere, but even I can't tell how he could have controlled that super bouncing ball, it was too random. The more surprising thing out of this is that Sito actually came with me to the elevator to support me. Mostly everyone else got some support in some way, mainly those in league with Yugimoto, but it's still nice to have Sito with me here. My thoughts are interrupted as the elevator opens up to a room I wasn't expecting. The room's main purpose was to house the server of the blimp running all the electronics, but in the back of the room is what appears to be a barred vault with rows and rows of metal shelves without any handles. Of key interest is that there's a podium in the center of vault which Sito steps to and interact with. Once he's logged in, he speaks to me. Mokuba, I know this isn't ideal, but this is an opportunity thrust upon us by that clown. I want you to help me achieve my objective of collecting the Egyptian god cards. I don't like treating you as a tool in my plan, but when that clown threw out another god card, I know we need every chance to collect them, so since you don't have a deck, we need to get you one. Hearing his words, it makes me pause for a second and I realize why we're here. The silver shelves must be Sito's card vault, so he was gonna give me a deck to enter the tournament. At that point I remember I forgot to tell him something important. Now I know you want something as powerful as the blue eyes, but we're pressed for time, so we will have to do this quickly. Sito continues, not realizing my revelation, but at this point, I speak up. Sito, you don't need to worry about that. I just realized I forgot to tell you the price for Drogon getting that contract was that he gave me a deck as powerful as the blue eyes archetype. My words cause my brother to do something I have rarely seen him ever do. He is stunned. I feel it might be because I said Drogon could just give away decks as strong as his as bargaining chips. It takes a few moments, but Sito sighs before speaking again. Let me guess, you were gonna surprise me when you got used to it, weren't you? I just nod since he's right. At this he extends his hand to me. I'm confused for a second before realizing that he wants to check if Drogon's claim is accurate or not, so I take the deck out and hand it to him before explaining. He said it's like the next tier evolution of the Thunder Dragons. It focuses on sending cards to the grave for their effects before either retrieving or using other cards to summon powerful Thunder Dragons. They also have 2 new fusions which are very disruptive, with a unique polymerization which allows me to fusion Thunder monsters with cards banished or in the graveyard while refilling the deck. Silently I watch as Sito glances at each of the cards before sighing. I will admit this deck is more powerful than what could be cobbled together with what's in the vault, but I can tell you haven't made it your own yet. Sito's words make sense to me and make me lower my head in contemplation about if it's suitable for me to use. Seeing my attitude, Sito smiles at me and speaks. Mokuba, I am not discouraging you from using it, since even I can tell that with this deck you will stand at the same level as me and Yugimoto. You just need experience. Maybe this Namua guy will be a suitable whetstone to start sharpening your fangs. Once he finishes saying this, he returns my deck to me before turning back to the podium and interacting with the terminal, which releases the locks on one of the larger shelves, which slides and folds out to reveal its contents. Sat upon a red velvet pillow is a dual disc. At its appearance I just remember, since I wasn't in the preliminaries, I don't have a dual disc, so Sito's giving me his spare. Sito returns to me with the dual disc and kneels before helping me put it on and adjusting it for me, since it was previously set up for Sito's preference. Once it's on, he stands back up and we both walk back into the elevator. Pressing the button for the arena, Sito speaks. Show the world the fangs of the Kaiba brothers, Mokuba. His words fill me with determination, and I nod boldly with a hint of nervousness, since this will be my first real professional duel in front of millions. As the elevator's doors open to the arena, I make a pledge to myself. I'll make Sito proud. Third person POV. The pair of younger brothers take their places on the arena facing each other. They don't settle for any small talk as they activate their dual discs to start the duel. Duel start. Namu LP, 4000. Mokuba's LP, 4000. Namu gets to start, so he looks at his hand before setting a monster face down in defense while placing a pair of cards face down before ending his turn with a smirk on his face. Starting Mokuba's turn, he draws and he quickly goes to play. From my hand, I'll reveal my Thunder Dragon and Thunder Dragon Dark, which allows me to discard them and collect from my deck 2 Thunder Dragons and another Thunder Dragon Dark. Thunder Dragon Light Thunder / Effect ATK 1600 / Def 1500. Thunder Dragon Dark Dark Thunder / Effect ATK 1600 / Def 1500. Namu isn't really surprised at the introduction of this new Thunder Dragon, mainly due to how new cards have been thrown left and right in the tournament, but Mokuba continues his turn. Next I'll summon to the field Batryman Solar in ATK position and activate its effect, which allows me to send a Thunder monster from my deck to the graveyard. On the field, Solar's card appears, and in a small hum of light what seems to be a trapdoor in the arena's floor appears. From it comes out a humanoid robot with a base body of a solar panel with a horizontal cylinder head depicting a grumpy face. Batryman Solar Light Thunder / Effect ATK and Def 1500. Sending a Thunder Dragon to the grave, Mokuba knows what to do next. From my hand I reveal Thunder Dragon Roar. By discarding it to the graveyard, it allows me to add a Thunder monster in the grave back to my hand, and so I'll collect the dragon I sent to my grave via Batryman Solar. At his words, the arena rings out with the sound of a mighty roar before Mokuba deposits a card before retrieving another card. Thunder Dragon Roar Dark Thunder / Effect ATK 2400 / Def 0. Finally, with this card in hand, I special summon a monster from my hand by removing from play 1 dark and 1 light monster in my grave from play. At this point, Namu, who was mildly interested, pauses before focusing, since this is the same method to summon either the envoy of the beginning or the end, and fighting either of them requires his full attention. On the field, a Taijutsu appears on the field indicating yin and yang. After a second, the Taijutsu takes on the depiction of a pair of dragon maws for yin and yang before the whole symbol starts to slowly rotate, becoming faster and faster, becoming a blur of black and white. A creature steps out from the blur like a shadow before slowly becoming solid. From it, the form of a creature with 2 black scaled heads poised in both rage and cunning appears on the field, nearly in size to a small house, its whole form giving off random sparks of black and blue electric bolts. Thunder Dragon Duo Dark Thunder / Effect ATK 2800 / Def 0. The appearance of a monster this strong so early makes Namu's brow crease in contemplation, but otherwise, his face is passive. But Mokuba speaks more. Due to the effect of Thunder Dragon Roar, if it's removed from play, it allows me to summon to the field in defense position a Thunder Dragon from my deck, which returns to my hand at the end of my turn. Upon the field, Dragon Duo lets out a sharp roar, and in a flash of lightning an orb of yellow energy appears upon the field in a ring of stones akin to an impact crater. Thunder Dragon Matrix Light Thunder / Effect ATK 0 / Def 2000. Trying to keep his momentum, Mokuba commands his battle phase. I'll have my dragon attack your face down monster. At his command, the twin-headed dragon's mouths start to illuminate with electrical energy. Namu's face down though is flipped to reveal what appears to be a colorful vase. From it, a pair of serpents appear with one slithering back into the pot. The energy from the dragon is released, utterly shattering the pot and the serpent that was hunkering inside with it. The other serpent though is coiled on the field in a defensive position. Namu starts to speak. You flipped my Cobra Jar. Its flip effect is to summon a venomous snake token onto the field. Cobra Jar Earth Reptile / Flip / Effect ATK 600 / Def 300. Poisonous Snake Token Earth Reptile / Token ATK and Def 1200 / 1200. No matter, I'll activate Dragon Duo's effect, where if it destroys a monster by removing a card from play in my graveyard, it allows me to add a Thunder Dragon from my deck to my hand. Then I'll have Batryman Solar take out your snake token. At his words, the flat robotic man raises his arms to create an orb of electrical energy similar to the one the dragon just produced before throwing it in a grand flash of energy. It travels fast and strikes into the snake, shattering it into pixels, all the while Mokuba adds a card to his hand. I activate the effect of my snake token. When destroyed, it deals 500 damage to you. A pair of yellow eyes gleam from Mokuba's shadow before what seems to be a shadow snake strikes from behind, coiling around his leg before biting into him, leaving a purple mark before it fades away. Mokuba's LP 3500. This surprise causes Mokuba some apprehension, but with Namu's field now empty, his confidence is high. With this he ends his turn, sending the matrix to his hand before allowing Namu to draw, but as he uses his dual disc to indicate the end of his turn, Namu speaks. At the end of your turn, I activate one of my face-down cards, Solemn Wishes, which allows me to gain 500 LP whenever I draw a card. Once he says this, he draws a card, gaining life points. With that he takes one card from his hand before summoning it to face down in defense before playing another face down card in the back line. Solemn Wishes Trap. Namu's LP 4500. Expecting more, Mokuba is confused when he's notified on his dual disc that Namu's already ended his turn. He speaks before drawing his card and starting his turn. I'll also use an end of turn effect, specifically Dragon Duo, which allows me to return a removed from play Thunder Dragon back to the top or bottom of my deck. He chooses Dragon Roar, placing it on top, meaning it is back in his hand, making it so he would draw it. Now starting his turn, Mokuba draws Dragon Roar. He looks through the many cards he has before continuing. From my hand, I use the effect of the Thunder Dragon Dark, sending it from my hand to the graveyard before getting another from my deck to my hand. This will also have the effect of strengthening Dragon Duo's ATK by 300 for the turn. Revealing the Dragon Dark in his hand to do so. Thunder Dragon Duo ATK 2800 3100. Once he has his third Dragon Dark from the deck, he speaks again. Now I'll tribute Batriman Solar to summon to the field Thunder Dragon Roar. The Solar Battery Man flexes himself before he illuminates and becomes a ball of yellow energy. Said energy shifts in hue, gaining a blue tint before from it a chimera-like creature akin of a mix between a lion and an eastern dragon emerges in a cloak of blue lightning. Thunder Dragon Roar Dark Thunder / effect ATK 2400 / def 0. Mokuba watches Namu to see if he would react in any way, but Namu's expression doesn't change. With that, Mokuba takes a deep breath to gain some confidence before speaking again. Now from my extra deck I special summon to the field by using Thunder Dragon Roar on the field as tribute for Thunder Dragon Colossus. The Thunder Dragon Roar on the field looks up into the sky and roars at the heavens in a challenge. The sky is still cloudy at this time from after the last duel started to darken, with sparks of electricity visibly being contained by them. The blue Chimera Dragon leaps from the field into the clouds before disappearing in the clouds. The whole arena is silent for in a moment, blinded in light by a deafening boom, a gigantic creature whose size would be equal to Astal or Slifer, whose serpentine body is coiling around the blimp as if trying to crush the life out of it. Thunder Dragon Colossus Dark Thunder / Fusion / effect ATK 2600 / def 2400. Its form Darkest Storm Clouds take center place on Mokuba's field, even next to a monster stronger than it, even if smaller in stature. Now I'll have my Dragon Duo attack your face down monster. At Mokuba's command, the twin-headed dragon's maws illuminate with charged energy before launching a pair of thunderbolts at the face-down card in question. While the maws were charging, Namu's card flipped over to reveal an unassuming metal pot with segmented ridges. It even fell onto its side once it appeared. The beams of thunderbolts arced towards the pot, but surprisingly when the bolts would make contact with the jar in question, the bolts seemed to warp before being pulled towards the side-facing mouth of the metal pot like a lightning rod before entering said mouth before disappearing, causing no damage. After a few seconds of stunned silence from Mokuba at this scene, a robotic burp is heard coming from the jar, its form turning to reveal where the jar mouth would be. It has a toothy grin as well as a green lens-like eye emblazed on the jar. Cyber Jar Dark Rock / Flip / effect ATK and def 900. At this point, Namu speaks, "You flipped over my Cyber Jar. When flipped, it destroys all monsters on the field before allowing each of us to reveal the top 5 cards of our decks before summoning all level 4 or below monsters in either face-up attack or face-down defense." Hearing this, Mokuba is stunned as the form of the Cyber Jar starts to glow with energy like it's about to explode. He thinks quickly before speaking, "I remove a Thunder Dragon Dark from play to protect my Colossus while allowing me to add a Thunder Dragon to my hand from the deck." The form of the Thunder Dragon Colossus gains a dark coating just in time before the Cyber Jar on the field starts to fully glow and then explodes in a grand explosion which covers the whole field. The field is then revealed to only have the Thunder Dragon Colossus on the field left. At this point, each of them draws the top 5 cards to reveal them. Namu's revealed card: Stealth Bird, King of the Swamp Monster Reborn, Morphing Jar number 2 Stealth Bird. Mokuba's revealed cards: Batriman 9V Thunder Dragon Lord, Portable Battery Pack, card of Demise Recycling Batteries. Due to the effect of the Cyber Jar, Namu's field actually explodes as he gains 4 monsters now on the field while Mokuba only has 1 new addition. With that, Namu goes to add the monster Reborn to his hand, but his dual disc flashes him a warning. At this, Mokuba speaks, "Colossus has an effect which bars you from drawing outside of your draw phase." Hearing this, Namu's brow creases, but he returns the card to the top of his deck, since Cyber Jar never mentions to shuffle it. Mokuba speaks up again, "Also due to 9V being summoned, it allows me to add a Batriman card to my hand while doubling its attack and defense for the turn. Batriman 9V Light Thunder / effect ATK and def 1000 greater than 2000. The small yellow battery man gets supercharged and is ready to fight, but Mokuba pauses for a second since Namu's field is now littered with face-down monsters, 3 of which are harsh flip effects. He chooses and points at the leftmost card. "I'll have Batriman 9V take out your leftmost face-down monster." The little Batryman raises both of its hands to collect energy into an orb over its head before throwing it towards the face down. The card flips over to reveal a blue-colored bird with feathers which seem to fade in hue to become transparent. Regardless, the energy ball strikes the avian, causing its form to char before pixelating. Stealth Bird Dark Winged Beast /Effect ATK 700/Def 1700. For flipping my Stealth Bird you take 1000 damage. With a scowl, Mokuba watches as his life points decrease. Mokuba's LP, 3500 greater than 2500. At this point he's getting annoyed by all the burn effects he's taking, then he remembers something. Wait, I just remembered something. Why can you use those monsters? The tournament has a rule against burn cards which deal direct damage to life points. At this, Nemu smiles slyly and speaks, well, the monsters are dealing the damage by an effect which have conditions, so they're not on the forbidden list. I feel it would be added after this duel though. Once Nemu says this, everyone can see that this kind of made Mokuba depressed since it was his job to regulate that list. Honestly, he felt he did a good job when there are tons of cards in circulation, especially with those cards that Drogon guy was pulling out of his coat. Regardless, Mokuba has to continue, which he does so by setting a card down and ending his turn. This allows Nemo his turn, gaining a card and 500 life points. Then he smirks before playing the card he just drew onto the field. From my hand, I play the Shallow Grave. The card on the field appears and a slight rumbling is visualized as on both players' fields a rectangular pit is formed. Nemu LP 4500 5000. The Shallow Grave spell. It allows each of us to summon a monster from the graveyard face down. Hearing this, Mokuba's expression is that of disgust, since he can easily tell Nemo would replay his Stealth Bird to the field, but without a counter, Mokuba simply takes a Thunder Dragon from his grave and places it onto the field face down. Now with them both on the field, I'll flip both Stealth Birds on the field, dealing 2000 damage to you with their effects. Two of the face-down cards on Nemu's field flip to reveal the semi-translucent birds, who both screech towards Mokuba, creating visible sound waves which strike him hard. Mokuba's LP 2500 greater than 500. Now for normal duels it would be customary for my monsters to attack, but with how your field is played out I won't need to do much to win, so I'll just activate my Stealth Birds effects to set themselves down to strike again. With Nemu's words, Mokuba realizes Nemu is right, since as the birds return to their face-down position, flipping either of them would just end the duel here. Then he remembers something. Stealth Birds weren't the only cards on Nemu's field. If he hit the morphing jar number 2, the birds would be shuffled back to the deck. He looks determined with his choice, since with the Stealth Birds being flipped their locations are known, so he still has a chance. This thread of hope motivates him, but akin to the right bastard he is hiding behind a fake name, Merrick likes to snap those threads. Now I activate the spell card Shifting Shadows from my hand. For the cost of 300 life points it allows Maine to shuffle the position of my face-down monsters on the field. Shifting Shadows spell / continuous. Nemu's LP, 5000 greater than 4700. Each of the cards face down on Nemu's field hover in place, casting a shadow onto the roof of the blimp. Then in an instant, those shadows become alive before the shadows flicker between the cards, swapping what's beneath each card. With that, place one card down before I end my turn, allowing you one last turn until the end of this duel. Mokuba's expression reflects his inner thoughts. He now has only a 1 in 4 chance to clear the field of those birds, while a 2 in 4 chance to just hit one of the birds. He closes his eyes and musters his willpower before drawing from his deck. He looks at the card and with it, he forms a plan. First of all, I'll flip my 9-volt man to attack position, then I'll activate the effect of a second Colossus in my extra deck by tributing 9-volt and a Thunder Dragon in my hand. The small battery man appears on the field before becoming a being of pure energy and zipping into the clouds above. With that, another bolt of energy from Mokuba's hand follows the little battery before in another large flash of light another Thunder Dragon Colossus is now coiling around the blimp next to its twin. Now from my hand I activate the spell card Black Hole, destroying all monsters on the field, but my Thunder Dragons won't be by simply removing 2 Thunder Dragons in my grave from play. Black Hole spell. In the center of the field, a sliver of pure darkness appears like an opening eye, revealing an event horizon beckoning pure destruction. Time doesn't seem to pass before a few moments later a suction force is visible, aiming to drag into the event horizon all of Nemu's face-down monsters. Like frisbee they get launched before disappearing into the void. Once all 4 of Merrick's cards are gone, the black hole rests and closes on the field. Now I'll have my first Colossus attack you directly. With his words, the giant dragon in question charges its shot, but before it's fired Nemu flips a card on his field to reveal a trap card depicting a blue and red door which appears on the field. Disregarding the doors, the dragon fires its charged shot, but the attack itself seems to be split in the middle before being consumed by both doors, which start to glow with the energy of the attack. the doors both disappear with the red door appearing behind Namu and the blue door behind Mokuba. I activated my trap changing destiny. It negates the attack and drains your monster of its power, forcing it into defense position while it's on the field, but the cost of this is that you can direct half of the attack energy in one of two ways. Either gain life points equal to half the attack or deal the damage to me. Changing destiny trap. Hearing Namu's words, Mokuba's first thought would be to deal the damage to him, but he quickly does the math, which makes him realize Namu would be still in the duel with 800 life points, which he is only at 500 with Namu's deck full of burn effects. I'll take the life point boost. At his words, the blue door behind him starts to open before bathing him in light as an effect, allowing him to regain his life points. Then he speaks again. I'll have my other Colossus attack directly. At this, Namu just takes the hit. Mokuba's LP 500 1800. Namu's LP 4700 2100. Going to his second main phase, Mokuba thinks of a quick play. From my hand, I activate the effect of Thunder Dragon Lord, which allows me to banish a level 8 Thunder monster to summon it to the field. I'll banish the Colossus in defense position. At his words, the Colossus, which was in defense position, starts to glow with energy, which starts to form cracks throughout its form, before from inside the giant dragon, akin to shedding its skin, the Colossus's dark scales flake and fade away to reveal an albino dragon adorned with 5 golden horns with a visible golden core in its chest which pulsates with energy. Thunder Dragon Lord Light Thunder / Effect ATK 3000 / Def 2000. Mokuba smiles at the monster. For some reason that Drogon guy only gave him one of these cards, so he feels it's special in some way, but he can't really tell why. Unaware, Namu can feel the actual spiritual weight of the card on the field, making him nearly forming a crack in his disguise mask. I go to end my turn, but with that, I'll use Dragon Lord's effect, which allows me to send a Thunder Dragon from my deck to the graveyard. Placing a card from his deck to the grave allows Namu his draw, and with it, he smirks before summoning the card to the field while gaining life points due to solemn wishes. Namu's LP 2100 2600. I summon to the field Tsukuyomi. The card appears on the field to reveal a priest in flowing ethereal robes which mask his form. Tsukuyomi Dark Spellcaster / Spirit ATK 1100 / Def 1400. When this monster is summoned, it allows me to target one monster on the field to be flipped face down. I'll target your Colossus. Hearing this, Mokuba is confused but unable to see the harm, since he can just flip it back next turn for the win. Tsukuyomi thrusts out his arm towards the colossal dragon with a set of divine pearls in his hand which radiate with holy light. This causes the Dark Thunder Dragon to seem to weaken before its form illuminates and shrinks into a card form which rests on Mokuba's field. Now with that nuance gone, I can finally draw more cards. From my hand, I activate the cards Pot of Greed, then chained with Pot of Avarice. A pair of pots appear on the field, one green and the other purple. The only similarity is that both depict faces smiling in happiness, just in different contexts. Pot of Greed, Pot of Avarice. Both pots allow me to draw 2 cards, but the Pot of Avarice allows me to return 5 monsters from the grave back to the deck, meaning my jars and stealth birds can be brought back, all while healing me for 2000. Namu draws his 4 cards, bolstering his hand again. Namu's LP 2600 4600. Next I'll play a card face down, then a Pot of Duality, which allows me to look at the top 3 cards of my deck and pick one to add to my hand before shuffling the others back into the deck. Pot of Duality. He does so and smiles as he adds the one he wants to his hand. Now I'll activate Double Summon, which will allow me to do as the card says and summon another monster. The monster in question will be this face down card, and with that I'll end my turn. Which by Tsukuyomi's second effect returns it to my hand. Mokuba draws, and he speaks. I'll flip Colossus back to attack position, and from my hand, I play the card Recycling Batteries, which allows me to add a pair of Thunder monsters with less than 1500 in my grave to my hand. He adds a pair of Battery Solar to his hand before summoning one to the field, allowing Mokuba to add another Thunder monster in the graveyard. Batriman Solar Light Thunder / Effect ATK and Def 1500. Still weary of the face-down monster and card on Namu's backline, Mokuba goes to attack. I'll have Dragon Lord take out your face down. At this, Namu smiles and reveals his face down. I activate Draining Shield to stop your dragon's attack and give me life points equal to the attack. At this, Mokuba creases his brow but quickly responds back. I activate the effect of Dragon Lord by removing 2 cards from my grave. It allows me to protect a Thunder monster on my field from being targeted, negating your trap. The form of the Dragon Lord illuminates with energy before shooting out a blast from its great maw towards Tsukuyomi. The monster in question raises a barrier to the blast, but it is ineffective in stopping it, causing Tsukuyomi's form to disappear in the light and from the field, dealing Namu the damage. Namu's LP 4600 greater than 2600. I'll have solar attack your face down, and when it's gone Colossus will win me this game. As the living battery charges its energy, a smirk is hidden on Nemu's face as he speaks. I don't think you're going to win, since with this I'll be flipping the board. The solar Batryman throws his attack at the card, which flips over to reveal a wooden entanglement of vines held together with a pair of metal braces, which makes the entanglement form a gourd-like shape. Its whole form tilts forward to reveal a glass-like bottom. The energy of the attack is drawn towards the glass bottom and is absorbed by it. At that point on the glass face, a holographic depiction of a zigzag smile and a single eye appears, as if taunting the dragons and battery man. Fiber jar earth plant /flip /effect ATK and def 500. When flipped, fiber jar resets both of our hands, fields, and graveyards by sending everything back to the deck before drawing 5 cards. Hearing the effect of the jar, Mokuba visibly sweats, since all his monsters and graveyard setup become moot in a single play. The fiber jar on the field floats to the center of the field before its roots start to glow with energy starting from the glass face towards its foliage-covered mouth. Once the leaves of the fiber jar are fully illuminated with energy like a swarm of butterflies, the leaves flutter off and form a swarm of shimmering lights which go to overwhelm the whole field. As the lights pass everything on the field, everything it touches just fades away like they never existed in the first place. Both duelists deposit their hands, fields, and graveyards back to the deck before drawing 5 cards, but due to this Mokuba can't continue his battle phase, so he has to resort to his main phase too. Looking closely at his cards, he then remembers a card he can use to summon his strongest monster, but for that he needs some setup, so with the cards in his hand he takes one and reveals it and speaks. I reveal and discard my Thunder Dragon Hawk to allow me to special summon a Thunder Dragon from my banished cards. In this case, returning to the field is the Dragon Duo, which was taken out by your Cyber Jar before. Thunder Dragon Hawk Light Thunder /effect ATK 1800 def 2200. Thunder Dragon Duo Dark Thunder /effect ATK 2800 def 0. With that, Mokuba ended his turn after setting 2 cards face down in his back line. Nemu draws, then in a single action reveals a pair of Pots of Greed, which allow him to draw 4 more cards, bolstering his hand to 7, but he doesn't smile and speaks bluntly. I'll play 1 face-down monster, then place a card down in my back row and end my turn. At this point, Mokuba is sick of Nemu's constant placement of face-down monsters, but he says, I'll have Dragon Duo use its effect to allow me to add a Thunder Dragon of out of play to the top of my deck for me to draw. To apply this, he just takes the card from out of play and adds it to his hand, since he would draw it. Now from my hand, I'll reveal Dragon Roar to allow me to summon a removed from play Thunder Dragon, in this case a Dragon Dark. Thunder Dragon Dark Thunder /effect ATK 1600 1500. Next I play my last Colossus to the field by using Dragon Dark and a Batryman in my hand. Again the field is struck in a flash of light as the Colossus returns to the field to loom over Nemu, blocking him from drawing more again. Thunder Dragon Colossus Dark Thunder /fusion /effect ATK 2600 def 2400. Due to Dragon Dark's second effect, it allows me to add a Thunder Dragon card from my deck to my hand. With this in my hand, I play the spell card Thunder Dragon Fusion. Mokuba searches his deck and takes out the spell card in question before playing it to the field. The sky above the blimp starts to be illuminated by lightning strikes, which form into a spiraling pattern depicting 2 dragons made of golden lightning. Thunder Dragon Fusion Spell. With this card, it allows me to fusion summon with a monster from my hand, field, graveyard and removed from play, sending the materials to the deck. So by adding 3 removed from play Thunder Dragons to my deck, I fusion summon Thunder Dragon Titan. The fusion circle in the sky glows as its ring becomes bigger and bigger in the sky. It gets so big that the pair of lightning dragons create a third partner to help form the ring as they fly. At a certain size, the trio of dragons start to blue in form and transform into energy before the ring of energy converges into a spiraling pattern, creating a monster of pure energy and draconic rage which leers down at Nemu's field like an overlord. Thunder Dragon Titan Light Thunder /fusion /effect ATK and def 3200. The presence of the Titan, even though bigger than Dragon Duo yet smaller than the Colossus, radiates with more power than both combined. This is visible by the number of sparks of energy traveling between the 3 monsters due to the static electricity they emanate. Now I'll have my dragons end this. Dragon Duo will take out the monster. The 2-headed dragon charges its attack. In response, Nemu's card is flipped to reveal a purple sack-like being which opens its mouth, revealing eyes within the mouth. It only takes a second before the thunder strike of the dragon hits the purple sack. In the flash of the attack, the sound of a bear trap is heard for some reason, but the field is cleared to reveal the monster is gone with nothing untoward on Nemu's field. It takes a few seconds for everyone to notice, but the effect of that purple bag becomes visible as embedded in the chest of the Titan is a fleshy bear trap made of fangs which seem to cause a poison to be visibly spreading through the body of the dragon like purple veins. Once the purple veins reach the heads of the dragon, it causes the titan to lurch before like a zombie it plods onto Nemo's field defending him. The monster just flipped was my Jowls of Dark Demise. It allows me to take control of a monster for a turn when flips, so I'm still in the duel. It would also allow me to attack directly with the monster, but it's your turn. Jowls of Dark Demise Water Fiend /flip/ effect ATK 200 def 100. Okay, at this point Mokuba is annoyed at this guy's survivability. He should have lost by now, but he's just hanging on. I hate you, just know that, Mokuba speaks with a bland tone. This seems to annoy Nemo, who gives a credulous look but quickly smiles passively, but internally he's enjoying it. Mokuba speaks again, well, Colossus can't take out Titan, so I'll go to main phase 2 before placing a card and end my turn. At his turn's end the Titan seems to shake its 3 heads, removing the effects of the venom before returning to Mokuba's field. Nemo draws and looks at the card before smiling and playing it. I think I'll end it now. I have to prepare to duel the next lot, so I'll play the Shallow Grave to resummoning face down my Jowls of Dark Desire. Realizing his plan, Mokuba reacts with a trap card. I'll negate it with Solemn Judgment. Internally Mokuba is happy at this moment, but then he watches as a similar card is flipped on Nemo's field as he plays his own Solemn Judgment in a chain. Solemn Judgment trap /counter x2. Mokuba's LP 1800-900. Nemo's LP 2600-1300. A pair of thunderclaps are heard as 2 divine lightning strikes land on the field, blocking each other out. Nemo's monster is placed on the field and with a smile he flips it again, allowing him to take over the Titan again. Mokuba sighs, realizing he lost as Nemo has his own dragon blast him for 3200 damage. Mokuba's LP 900-0. Nemo wins. Creator's thoughts. Drogon. Sorry for the delay, I had to make this chapter like 3 times. The main difficulty was deciding on a deck for Merrick, mainly because first time I though of him using his anime deck, but realized after writing the whole chapter that he's still in disguise, so he won't want to flaunt RA, so using a deck focused on using RA would be counterproductive. Then I though he would use a Gravekeeper deck, since the next thing connected to him would be the Gravekeepers, since there's a card based on him in their archetype, but then remembered he hates them currently, so I then remembered a comment I made about the most forbidden archetype in the game, so I decided on a pot and jar deck based around flip effects. Comment. 7 comment. Vote. Chapter 51, Chapter 49, Respite for Weary Souls. POV Drogon. Watching Mokuba fight Merrick was honestly less interesting than I thought it would be, mainly because Merrick was playing a really cheap deck. I thought he would have played something more dynamic, but maybe that's why he played like that, since he's still in his terrible disguise. Regardless, I had a feeling he was going to win. Yeah, I know I gave Mokuba his powerful deck, but fate has a way of messing with things to make things work out. Essentially I don't really count the duel since Merrick had plot armor. While the duel was going on, I was the witness to another great battle, a battle of the flavors. It turns out that each of the demigods have a certain flavor which they like over others, mainly because I haven't interfered acting as an impartial observer, and because it's funny, they have actually grouped up to lobby me for food like a democracy. In the sweet squad is Miquella, Ronnie and surprisingly Raiden. The salty solution has 4 members, Morgott, Godwin, Malenia, and Leonard. Housed in the bitter bunch are both Rykard and Mesmer. The last party is the Umami union with Melina and Moke. As a note, out of the group only really Fortisax liked sour flavors, maybe because his taste buds are death touched so he can't taste anything else, that or dragons like sour flavors, I have no idea. But regardless, the war of flavor crossed past lines and made new connections between the fragmented families, so I won't complain. Wait, I will complain mentally, since like a democracy they won't stop shouting out their party's policy. Now unlike a democracy though, some of the parliament's members aren't beings of great magical power who have the possibility to harm me in the future. Honestly, the way Raiden's looking at me makes him feel more intimidating than Malenia, who is currently sharpening her blade with a whetstone. I shiver as I feel a cold sensation down my back for some reason, but my focus is taken away as Mokuba and Sito arrive back at the room in the same elevator while Merrick appears from a different elevator. It only takes a few moments for them to rejoin the group before the announcer starts to speak. Dear finalists, welcome to the next round of duels in the Battle City Tournament Finals. We will take a 10-hour break before the next round of duels. I have also been informed of a changes made to the next round of duels. The announcer's words informing of the 10-hour break and the change of the rules spreads murmurs through the crowd, but it doesn't take long for the announcer to recapture the attention of everyone present and watching on the air. The change of the rules are as such. At this moment all of the spheres of this round of duels will be distributed randomly with their results hidden from the collective. This isn't done in pairs, so the sphere you hold will not be the same connection for the next round your opponent holds. Secondly, the spheres will have a set priority. This will be used to determine the order of the duels at the end of the 10-hour break. The list will be presented once all the spheres are distributed and the set priority is in correlation to the remaining life points the duel list had in the last round of duels. Lastly, for this 10-hour break period at any time you may trade the sphere you hold with another willing duel list who has a sphere, but after the third duel of the round the fourth duel will be against the remaining 2 duelists regardless of the spheres they hold. Mentally my troll boner is piercing the ceiling since I just made the next round into a Yu-Gi-Oh! Hunger Games scenario, where the duelists have to balance duel difficulty against intended targets. I watch the room to gauge the reactions of the present duel list, and I can tell it's a mixed bag. First of all, Sito is furrowing his brow in annoyance, maybe because if we were following a normal bracket-style tournament he would be dueling Merrick, Odeon, next, but I just flipped the table. I will say it's not great for me either since I remember I played a flawless game against Joey taking no damage, so I'm slated to have a priority ball. It doesn't take much time, but 8 men hired by Kaiba Corp come into the room holding cube containers attached to handcuffs. Each of the men go to approach a finalist before attaching a box to each duel list. I inspect mine to reveal a simple latch system which is attached to a mechanical device and timer which is counting down. Now the break period will commence in 5 minutes, it is recommended to return to your rooms to open the box containing your opponent's sphere in private. With that the extra staff in the room disperse back out of the main room, this includes the announcer as the timers on all our boxes start to tick down. At this moment the actual list appears for everyone to see. Guinevere equals first, 5,100. Drogon equals second, 4,000. Yugi equals third, 3,700. Kaiba equals 4th, 1,350. Namu equals 5th, 1,300. Bakura equals 6th, 450. Patches equals 7th, 350. Merrick equals 8th, 200. Taking the order into account I take this as the time to leave, so as I leave, I follow the democracy of the demigods and salty snack from the food present before sodding off to my room. Once there it doesn't take long for the timer to finish up and it reveals to me a sphere. Taking it out before spinning it on the tip of my finger I smirk as the sphere indicates a flipping pattern between a cup of tea and an ominous ring. Chapter 52, Chapter 50, Boredom Begets Reflections. To be honest, the idea that the duelists will need 10 hours to sleep and prep for the next day after a full day and a half of dueling was necessary. But as it turns out, for someone who doesn't need to sleep it becomes just 10 hours of boredom. Now it's not that I'm unable to sleep, it's more that due to the power in my body, it's more that sleep is no longer necessary like it is for others. Lastly, the main reason is that Malenia has finally finished sharpening her blade and has had the crazy though of helping her brother by entering the maelstrom to try and fight the storm or trying to hunt for more god cores for him. When Miquella got her to tell of her plan it caused the other demigods to get on the proverbial bandwagon. To be honest, I have no idea if it's a good idea, but once a coalition of Malenia, Miquella, Raiden, Morgott, Moke, Mesmer, Godwin, and Fortisax entered the storm I've been having banging headaches. At least I have Leonard for emotional support, he's a good boy. But due to most of the demigods going off gallivanting in my soul it leaves a trio of demigods present. With them here it does beg me to ask a question that's been on my mind for a while and each of them probably have their opinions on the subject, so I just ask outright. So as a general question, what made each of you disillusioned with the Golden Order? I know Millicent's reason in parts, but the reason was never spelled out clearly for either of you besides your relation to the House of Carrion. My question doesn't seem to surprise Ronnie or Rykard, maybe because they were expecting it or that they simply don't care anymore since it's in the past, but when I referenced their stepsister's similar situation I can see it makes them see her in a better light. Rykard speaks, well, that question is complex and shrouded in mysteries hidden within MT Gelmer's twisting caves and ... Ronnie cuts him off, it's because he was always treated as an afterthought or as the garbage man to remove heretics. The declaration takes me to the edge of laughing despite the headache, maybe cause Rykard's incredulous look towards Ronnie speaks volumes. It takes a moment for Rykard to recover, but his tone now has lost a portion of the mystery he was trying to instill. It's more than that. First of all, out of all of my siblings and step-siblings, both me and Ronnie weren't blinded by the Golden Order. She has her reasons, but my own were because within the libraries of Raya Lucaria, a journal recorded the origin of the Golden Order, and it told me the truth of some things. At this Ronnie looks inquisitive towards her brother before asking, was there such a journal? I remember reading all the books in the academy, but I don't remember such a book. He gives his sister a bemused look and explains, oh, that's because after I read it I showed it to our father thinking he would like it, he took it and I never saw it again, I will say it did contain some things a 9-year-old at the time shouldn't be reading, but with the information given by our host I now believe it was for other reasons. At this point I speak up. Let me guess, it talked about the Hornsent religion and that there's a monument which could manifest outer wills to do true miracles like reviving the dead without mind, body or soul remaining. Now that catches each of the three's attention directly. It only takes a moment, but Rykard speaks. No, it talked more about the atrocities of the Hornsent and only said the Golden Order came as an offshoot of that religion. It made no mention of this monument you speak of. At this I just shrugged before taking out my Miquella's plot deck and sieving though it for a card. Well, it's there. Its location is at the top of a giant gravity-defying spire in the Shadowlands. You've seen me actually play it since it's the card used to summon Miquella's god card. At this point I pull out the Gate of Divinity to show them the pair of ash-covered monoliths which form a gateway into the divine realm. Miquella's end goal was to use the monument to take over the previous order to usher in a new order built off love and acceptance. Sadly, his plan also entailed everyone being essentially brainwashed to do so, but critically his plan would have worked, just like it did for Marika when she used the monument against the Hornsents. My declaration on the connection between the Hornsent and Golden Order give the three curious expressions, but I can tell Ronnie herself is very annoyed, since I guess learning about a way to escape the grasp of the Golden Order which was just there unattended would annoy anyone. Rykard composes himself the fastest since he catches what I was hinting by talking about the monument, so that's why he hid the book. Well, regardless, since I know the Golden Order's major claim that it was the correct order of the whole world was false, I never fell for its lies, but because of the powers in play I knew I had to at least pay lip service. He takes a seat on a chair and arches his hands in contemplation. From the outset I knew the order would fracture in some form, so I knew I had to prep. It did help when I became the High Inquisitor, giving me a giant natural fortress as well as giving me a constant stream of men or women capable of being recruited for my cause who weren't fans of the Golden Order, while ease of access to Lindell. All I needed to do was remove the frenzied flame heretics to put on a show and I would be undisturbed till the end before swooping in for the win. At this point Ronnie is convinced that her brother's plan was actually viable for his goal if he wanted to take over the Golden Order, but both me and Melina look to each other then say at the same time, "Then you went crazy and became a giant snake." At this again the intelligent figure he was trying to portray collapsed like a house of cards when this caused him to visibly flinch right in front of his sister, who's just smirking at his stupidity. She even makes her own comment, "I gave you the blasphemous claw as payment also to protect you if Maliketh figured out the plot. Let me guess you lost that as well as your mind." At this I comment, "Oh no, he was smart with that. He gave it to a knight wielding one of the legendary armaments which had access to an ash of war able to area of effect life steal from people." At my words each of the demigods have a look on their face equal to questioning what the fuck I'm talking about. Why are you lot looking like I just grew an additional head? To this question Melina is the one to respond. Well, in the lands between there were no weapons known as the legendary armaments, maybe godly weapons like Marika's hammer or Malekth's black blade, but the weapon you speak of doesn't ring any bells. At this Rykard and Ronnie nod in unity to this notion. What the hell, are you sure? Because off the top of my head 2 of them are connected with the Carrion royal family. Hell, Ronnie, the Dark Moon Greatsword is one of them. I say with some incredulousness in my voice. At this she tilts her head to the side and thinks, I see. Well, while it would attest to being legendary in status, it's just I've never heard as being referred to as a legendary armament before. It does beg the question, what were the others? Since I still have nothing else better to do, I lean against the back of the chair I'm in and start to think. Would you want just descriptions, or do you want to know how I was able to get each of them? I can tell that for those present they're curious in both factors, so I just start talking. Well, first of all, there's between 9 and 15 legendary armaments depending on certain criteria. As a note, some of those possible ones are in the Land of Shadow, and that's the reason why. Regardless, each of them either required killing an entity either wielding the weapon, guarding it, or just finding why exploring important locations. At this Ronnie is a bit annoyed. What do you mean you just find legendary weapons by just exploring? That sounds so redundant, like who would just place a powerful weapon in a corner and forget about it? Until you came and found it. At this I'm silent for a moment before smirking. Yeah, about that. The second legendary weapon related to the Carrions was the Sword of Night and Flame. It's capable of acting as a catalyst for someone casting Comet Azza or a Grand Flame Slash, and it was in an unlocked chest in Carrion Manor unguarded. The room is silent. Coming from both Carrion siblings is overwhelming, but the mirth of me and Millicent is ever present. But after a moment I continue. Other legendary weapons I just found were the Eclipse Shotel in Castle Sol in the mountains. It's a curved sword that could enchant itself to cause death blight with each strike. Another was the Bolt of Granzax, which was a shard of the giant bolt embedded in Lindell, still holding some of the great dragon's power, allowing it to be thrown as a dragon-infused lightning bolt that reappears in your hands. I let myself pause to breath and let them understand that each of these weapons weren't normal in any sense in comparison to others, but just as a set piece I take each of them out of my soul as I speak of them. I found 4 other legendary weapons while exploring, but they were in the Shadowlands, so as I said they might not count. The simplest of them to find though was the ancient meteoric or greatsword. It's absolutely massive and has some crazy powers like being able to teleport, but the scary thing is it looks like it's an arrowhead for some reason and it's used like a greatsword. The next one I found was one connected to the Hornzent religion called the Euporia. It's a twin blade that just empowers itself with holy energy after every strike, where in a single flurry of actions be able to just release all that damage into a foe. It was a bitch to find, essentially having to shimmy across a waist-thin parapets, jumping to other waist-thin parapets with leaps of faith while being assaulted by Hornzent priests who could just summon magic at a person's feet. The last one I just found was different though. The weapon was actually 2 in 1, the Sword of Light or Dark. I found it embedded in a ruin altar within a basin surrounded by flowers and rusted weapons, but its form then was that of a stone sword. But later I found out you could take it to one of 2 other altars within the Land of Shadows to either imbue it with light or darkness, allowing it unique holy attacks, one a black mist, the other a series of lasers. Funnily enough, it turns out I'm able to pull both of the swords out of my soul, but I don't really care, I just let them float, which have them radiating both light and darkness respectfully. Now the rest of them I had to kill something to get at them. I'll just list them in the order of when I got them. The Grafter Blade Greatsword, which was the treasure of Castle Morn on the Weeping Peninsula. It was wielded by a Leonine misbegotten leading a revolt in the castle. Its power allowed the user to essentially boost themselves greatly. The next one I killed for was actually a black knife from one of the assassins. It still has some of the power from that night, meaning a single nick could corrode the body and it can shoot out slashes of that power. The next one I found without warning while exploring one of the divine towers, Syelids to be precise. It turns out in the basement of that tower there's a hall which housed a godskin apostle. It seemed to be a shrine since it was guarding the Godslayer's greatsword. It's a weapon capable of wielding the black flames of the godskin and creating grand slashes with it on command. From the tower I really quickly got the next one. It was the Ruin's greatsword. Again it was wielded by a Leonine misbegotten, but he was partnered with a Crucible Knight. The pair took over Redmina Castle after Raiden died, which is what drew me there from the tower since I saw a commotion at the castle. It's a giant slab of stone from HAREM which was hit by a meteor. It's full of power from the ancient dragons and gravity magic from falling meteors, so its hits are earth-shaking. The next one I found was very therapeutic for me actually, mainly because I finally found the location of a dick who was constantly hunting me down randomly using a sword that was able to fly. I found him in the shaded castle where it turned out he took over after the last owner's FD off. Regardless, the Marais Executioner's sword was obtained, and I got some revenge. The last 2 were the Devourer's Scepter, which was wielded by Bernal. I killed him in HAREM, retrieving both it and the Blasphemous Claw. The other was the most annoying to find, mainly because of the stupid location of the Golden Order Greatsword. When I say its name, both Ronnie and Rykard both lightly gasp as I bring out the last of the legendary weapons. The looks on both of their faces are that of remembering a long ago memory. At this I stop and give a poignant look towards Rykard to explain. He sighs and speaks. We recognize that sword. Radagon wielded while he was with our mother. Radagon was never good at sorcery, so he wasn't suited to use Renala's full moon greatsword, so she had one made for him made of holy light of the Golden Order. When he left her, he took it with him, but when we met him again in Lindell we never him wield it again. At this I'm silent, but I can tell they're curious to at least hear where it was lost to. Okay, then I was just gonna gloss over it, but let me try and remember the details. First of all, it was wielded by a Leonine misbegotten. Don't ask me how they keep getting them, I have no idea why. Regardless, the location was within a frozen cave system at the bottom of a frozen ravine, the entrance to which was guarded by the strongest magma WIRM in the lands between. The most annoying thing about the cave though is that it's in the consecrated snow field, a location I'm not sure if Marika/Radagon even knows was accessible at the time, so sadly I have a feeling he dumped the sword in the mountains, maybe near the Grand Lift of Rold, and it was just picked up and took there by a misbegotten. The answer isn't nice, but I can tell the truth of the situation granted them solace, but any more contemplation of the legends of the lands between is cut short at the intercom for my room goes off indicating a visitor. Mainly because I'm bored, I get up restocking all of the legendary weapons and go to the door. Once at the door I open it to reveal someone I wasn't expecting, but at their appearance I just smirk and speak, "Well, you're a surprise, come in and take a load off." I beckon them inside and close the door. Chapter 53, Chapter 51. A Brother's Love. Letting the guest into the room with some mirth, I watch as they take some simple steps into the room and then sit exactly where Rykard is. It does something weird when they overlap, since I wasn't expecting them to just grow a long red braided beard before Rykard got out of the seat. Well, regardless, I was expecting a guest during the break, but to be honest I thought it would be one of the people still in the tournament and not one I kicked out personally, so I have to ask why the visit, Joey. I come over to him and sit in the chair across a side table from him. Yeah, I know this is weird, but I have to get the details about those weird cards you spat up and gave to my sister. Your whole shtick is just random mumbo-jumbo, and I need to look out for her. I channel my inner Rykard and arch my hands together as if in contemplation before speaking. To be honest, I have some guesses, but none of them are great news. She might want to be wary of black abyss-like wormholes unless something grabs her from it. His face at my words can only be described as wrathful, but my posture breaks after a few seconds as I laugh. He stands up and glares at me and yells, "Why are you laughing, nutcase? This is my sister we're talking about here, it's not a laughing matter." I wave a hand to indicate for him to sit back down and speak. The thing is, though, even in the worst case scenario I can think of involving the cards, it's not really a problem. At this, Joey's rage simmers, but it's still a light. He sits back down but still glares at me. Explain. I lean against my curled hand and look at Joey with a complex expression before raising my other hand and using my fingers as visual aids. Well, from my understanding there should be 3 situations. The first is that the cards remain inert in some way. I would assume you would prefer that, but too bad that's not happening since trying to contain them is impossible. The second situation is that the cards affect her slightly. In this case, they affect her and the world around her slightly. This is the middle road since those cards are just the remains of a great power, not the core. The most you want is for it to just have a single card look like her. The last situation is the one that, while unlikely, is the one I feel is gonna happen at some point, but for it, I just have to ask a simple question: how scrappy is Serenity? My question catches Joey out of his anger, but he responds quickly for someone who is probably on the spectrum. She's a wheeler. Scrappy is in our blood. Good, because the last scenario is bad, so bad that I wish she never had to experience it. This reignites his anger and he stands up. What do you mean by that? If those cards are gonna harm her, I'm gonna rip them up right now. At this I look at him with sympathy. You don't have to worry really. If my guess is right, even in the worst case scenario, by the end of it she would be fine in body. I'm surprised that even in his anger Joey catches the nuance of the statement I just said. They're gonna mess with her head. I quirk my eyebrows at his comment and sigh before looking away from him and thinking before looking back to him, well, if my idea is right, there's a way to mitigate any damage. If you're willing to trust me, there's one thing you can give her. He hears this and his expression is alleviated slightly. So what is this safeguard item I need to give her? I get up from my seat and step in front of him and simply press a single finger towards his chest, more specifically his pendant. Simple, you have to just give her that, then tell her no matter what happens you love her. The best thing you can do is give her an anchor to make it so regardless of what she has to do to survive she won't lose her way and come back. The rage on his face is total as I blatantly told him the truth. If the worst case happens, hell, he gets up and goes for a swing at me, which I allow to hit me in the face. After the punch I spit out a tooth onto the floor of the cabin with a spot of blood. I rub my jaw with my hand and take a step back. The look on Joey's face is still of anger, but before he goes for the next hit I speak. Yeah, I deserved that one, but just that one. I knew you had a backbone, and you needed the closure, so go and help your sister before fate acts like the bitch she is. My words seemed to go in one ear and out the other with him, but when I mentioned how his sister could be in danger his rage towards me took a sidestep as he charges out of the room in a desperate attempt to save his sister. Once he's gone from the room, I look at the royals in the room and sigh before returning to the seat. Ronnie is the first to speak. What was that all about? You make it sound like that girl is to be ripped apart mentally. What could be the worst case scenario? I think for a second and speak. I don't know if you were out of the maelstrom yet at the first moments. I was in this world, but one critical thing I told Miquella about is that in the past my connection to the lands between was akin to a game using a puppet under my control to become the Elden Lord. If you remember my speech about their world involving the rekindling of the first flame, it's a similar connection to that world, but while there's only one connection to the lands between, there's 3 to their world at different points in time. The first linking, the Drang-like era where the shards of Manus tried to take over, and the last linking. In 2 of those the only way the game works is that the user is afflicted by a curse which consumes your memories if you die, turning you into a shambling husk if you give up hope. At my words it dawns on both Ronnie and Rykard the reason for my instruction. From now on, I can't even interfere at this point since fate is annoying like that. Honestly, I wish I could give her some hints or the locations of critical things, but since I don't know what point she's gonna enter at, it's pointless, since if she dies, she might lose critical information since some of it shouldn't get out. Seeing the irony of wanting to help but helping would harm her instead, Rykard retakes his seat before with a voice full of mirth asks, if you could tell her one thing from each time point, what you would then? At this question, I lean back in my chair before counting them out. For the first link, warning about the Great Hollow and Ash Lake trap, it's a location trap that happens if you don't have an item which allows you to teleport. Without the item it requires 10 times the effort to get out of the trap. For the Drang-like era, a warning about the Shrine of Amana, homing magical snipers with little to no cover and hidden ledges under dark water was bullshit. I just wished it wasn't mandatory to pass through to get access to the remains of the King of Drang-like. For the last linking, it's no contest, it's the jailers of Iruthil dungeon. They have these lanterns which just sap the life out of you constantly. They can't kill you, but they make it so your body is so fragile that even a light breeze would shatter all of your bones, all while in a maze of prison cells and tunnels. Ronnie and Rykard are both intrigued and weary of the scenarios I talked about, maybe not the first one since I didn't mention the mushroom men who just punch you into a paste with a single strike, but they wouldn't believe me if I mentioned those. At that point, my door rings again, indicating another visitor to my room. I get up and walk towards the door, but as I do I look towards a lamp over the nightstand and the amber eye visible under the slightly skewed lampshade. I nod to it as it fades in the light of the lamp and go to open the door. On the other side is one person I was expecting. "Get in here, you blighter, did you pocket the good stuff as we discussed?" I usher Patches in with a smirk as he presents a wine bottle that's possibly from Cito's stash. Chapter 54, Side Chapter 3, A Ball Game. POV Guinevere. When I heard about this hot potato form of a game, I knew it was Drogon's manipulations, but I also realized something. This is the situation he set up to allow me to get at Merrick, but I'm probably in the worst situation to face him. He could have told me to try and take some damage in my duel so I wouldn't be the first to duel. But due to that, it means I know my goal for this round, even though both options are borderline impossible. It's gonna be a challenge to make it so Merrick is either holding my sphere so I can duel him or his own for the last duel, but I have two advantages to make this possible. The first being able to have my card spirits help me. It turns out the boxes aren't spirit proof, so Eva can just jump in and look at the box to tell me. Secondly, it turns out the sphere I have depicts a certain puzzle box. Now the idea of dueling Yugi with all that crazy stuff Drogon talked about and how he can just cheat makes it akin to poison for the tournament, but I know Merrick and Cito Kaiba want this cursed gold, but I remembered something, so this affects my plans. It doesn't take long for me to leave the room and find the location of a certain person's designated room, but when I approach it I find the person in question taking a step out of his room. Honestly, the image of the teen in front of me doesn't fit the descriptions of what Drogon said, but that's the thing about possessions, isn't it? It's not what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside. Bakura speaks to initiate the conversation. "Oh hello, if I remember your Guinevere right, your duel against that veiled man was interesting. Wish it didn't take so long though." "Well, I did as well, but that's just how the duel is played out sometimes. It didn't help that some of my cards would have just made the game last longer since they would have helped him as well." I see, I was curious why it felt like you were holding back." Bakura nods with a hand to his chin. "But anyway, I prefer to get down to business, so I need some help and I'm willing to make a trade." At this, Bakura tilts his head before realization appears in his eyes. "Oh, it's about the spheres. I assume you want to trade them by that rule. Well, I'm open to it, but to be honest I drew a short stick. I got Patches. I feel his play style would just be a mess for me to face." Hearing this I smirk, since it is usable for my plan, so I speak this time dropping the veil of civility of the conversation. "Well, I'm willing to trade mine, especially since it's the one you want the most, but for this, I need something that only you can provide outside of everyone else, even Merrick or Drogon." Hearing this, Bakura's demeanor changes rapidly, taking on a more rugged form before he speaks. "I see, so you can see through the disguise. If you're this shrewd I would assume you already know my target. What is it you want?" Channeling my inner Drogon I speak. "Oh, I just want information about the location of my own sphere, nothing more." Hearing this request, the being inhabiting Bakura squints his eyes in contemplation before a golden ring just appears on his chest. He takes a few steps towards a plaque on the wall which has a floor map of the blimp. "You have a deal. Let's trade the spheres before you get your information." From my own case and his case we both take out our spheres and exchange them without ceremony, but once done his Millennium Ring quickly sends out a chained pointer towards the floor plan pointing at a specific person's quarters. Understanding who it is makes me annoyed, since it makes the sphere I just got worthless, since they would have wanted Yugi's. I leave the possessed teen behind since he has what he wants and is highly unlikely to give it up. Not like it matters to me anymore. It doesn't take long before I reach the door and knock on it. Once I touch the door though, it creaks open to reveal a darkened room. This situation wasn't expected, but I take a step into the room looking around. I hear a clicking sound from the bed, but it's too dark, so I take out my phone and shine a light towards the bed to see a scene I wasn't expecting. Honestly wasn't expecting to see a bald guy with his arm phased through a safe which his head is against, but I recognize the guy who shouldn't be here. Seeing he's been caught, Patches turns towards the light expecting to be arrested, but when he saw it was me, his fake sympathetic face changes to a smirk. "Oh hello my dear, don't mind me, just inspecting the stability of this safe, making sure it's safe to contain valuables." Hearing the obvious deflection from the slime ball, she just rolls her eyes. "Look, I don't care what you're doing, but I won't tell on you if you give me my sphere. I need it and I have a feeling you would want your own." Hearing this, Patches just laughs again before pointing at the box on the table next to him, allowing me to just swap them as he does his own actions. Next is possibly the most dangerous step of my plan, but with Patches here I come up with a plan. "I know you're a shady individual with access to some unusual stuff, so I need you to hook me up with a tool." Hearing her comment, Patches frowns while still focusing on the safe. Now, my dear, you have me wrong. I'm an upright and honest individual. I'm so just and honest. My nickname back home is Trusty Patches. You can't do wrong working with me. I need something to distract Merrick so I can swap his sphere without him noticing." Hearing this and the challenge of the task, it causes Patches to regain his roguish smile. "Well, you came to the right person. I assume you really mean that lad wearing the Egyptian jewelry who's disguising himself. Well, anyway, I have the perfect thing." At this, the pair hear the safe click as it slowly opens to reveal some documents and a bottle of wine. With that done, he reaches his hand into the sack on his waist before taking out a grey stone inlaid with golden markings. "Since I'm in a good mood, I'll hand it over. This item was used as part of a shackle for a right piece of work. It's worthless now to trap them again, but its power could be used to momentarily restrain someone with magic who's already been restrained by magic in some way." Seeing what I'm implying, stars twinkle in her eyes as she takes the stone. She feels she could have one of her spirits use it, so she tries to formulate a plan. She exits the room before Patches, who carries the bottle away, to where she doesn't care. Now all it would take is the perfect moment. She goes to her own room and sends a pair of her spirits to spy on Merrick, who just stays in his room for most of the break. She rests for the break but gets ready to act near when the time would be up. Near the end of the break, she finds the perfect moment as Merrick, posing as Namu, is walking down some stairs. Him being away from Odeon but within view of Yugi and his friends, the location is perfect. She signals for her spirit to use the shackle towards him. The effect is immediate, as within her line of sight Namu seems to lose his balance on the stairs and fall forward onto the floor with a smack. This draws the attention of everyone as Namu has just face planted onto the floor. Moments later, Yugi and his friends go to help the paralyzed Namu surrounding him, but at this point she makes her move and sneakily swaps her sphere with the one in his case. A few seconds after she steps away from the scene, Merrick gets back up, trying to maintain the disguise of Namu and holding in his embarrassment. Mainly because she's happy with her plan's fruition, she looks at her case's sphere and see it's Seto Kaiba's. This places a wiry smile on her face, since if she had to duel him she would have been boned. She just enters the main room and waits for her plan to be revealed and for her duel. Chapter 55, Chapter 52, A Shot at Revenge. POV Drogon. Let me tell you this, never challenge an undead to a drinking contest. I found out just before passing out from drunkenness that Patches' state is a sort of semi-flux between all his versions, like Schrodinger's cat but being a smarmy bastard. Now to those who don't realize, that means at any time he could walk on walls. Yeah, that was a surprise until I remembered he was a spider in Bloodborne. The last thing I remember though was singing the Spider-Man theme, but a Patches version. Spider Patches, Spider Patches. Does whatever a spider can. Spins a web, any size. Is a thief, never truly dies. Look out. Here comes the Spider Patches. Fun times. Anyway, when I awoke he was gone and he most likely nicked something from me, but with a simple metaphorical pat down I can't really tell what he took, so I'll just go with the age-old adage of, if it's not important to remember it doesn't matter in the first place. I just enter the main room again, where the machine is lit up and surrounded by guards. All of the remaining contestants are present, as well as most of the losers and non-participants. Also, as a note, some of the demigods are back from their dive in the maelstrom. It seems they're having fun in there, but it might not be as fun for some, since the non-combative Miquella, dismissive Morgoth, and disabled Godwyn and Fortisax are back. Under the urging of the demigods, it means I know the snack selection while I wait. As I approach the table to collect said snacks, I get approached by a guard. I do notice that each other remaining duel list is approached. It doesn't take long, but the guard informs me that the sphere reveal process will happen in 5 minutes, so I should prepare. Well, it would be rude to be standing for the process in front of the whole world munching on food. I know I've messed with the tournament enough that anything else I do would probably have Seto throwing me off this blimp, while it's in flight, maybe over a reef just to make it hurt more. With a plate of snacks left on a table, I make my way to the machine while the others do so as well. One of the guards does a countdown in view, which at the end of the head guard starts his commentary to introduce the tournament to those just tuning in, since as I suspected adding more time for the tournament boosted its hype growth. After the introduction takes place it doesn't take long for the announcer to start listing each remaining contestant. I mostly tune it out, but when it's my turn to be announced I simply smile and wave, especially since the announcer used my Kaiba Corp title, which must have confused so many people. Like, why is the head of public relations in the tournament? When did Kaiba Corp get a head of public relations? Why does Seto Kaiba keep staring at his head of public relations like he wants to kill him? All very good questions which are glossed over as the announcer just continues, though the list of contestants ending with Odeon, who's disguised as Merrick, being described as the brother of the Egyptian ambassador to America, which is true in and out of the disguise. Once each of us are announced, the announcer then continues with the procession, mainly going over the sphere meaning and importance of order. After that he then speaks directly towards the duelists. Now contestants, it's time to determine the first match of this round of the semi-finals. Now, due to the order set from the last rounds of duels, the first duel will be between Miss Guinevere and whoever holds her sphere, so may the person wielding her sphere step forth. At this nothing else happens. The silence is kind of overwhelming, so much that I can even hear the blimp's propellers thumping in the background. After a few more seconds of silence, each of the other duelists start to look at each other in confusion. Seeing this, the announcer, not missing a beat, continues. It seems the duel list isn't willing to announce themselves. Luckily the game designers made is to the boxes can identify the sphere within, so with a simple press of this button the duel list will be revealed. For dramatic effect, the announcer has a device with a prominent green button which he clicks. At this, everyone's cases frames flash a neon light, becoming illuminated before one by one the cases illuminate for dramatic purpose. This ends with only one case illuminated in the hands of a bronze-skinned teen. At this his face is that of surprise. What? There must be a mistake, I have someone else's sphere, not hers. Namu speaks in confusion and annoyance. To this the announcer places a hand against his ear to listen to something before speaking. The system is detecting Guinevere's sphere in your case. Even if you say it's not, we need to confirm it anyway by revealing the sphere in question, so please open your case. Hearing this, Namu pauses for a second, seeing that he can't really do anything to manipulate the situation size before grasping his case and opening it. Within it sits a sphere depicting a half-skull, half-helmet with a back emblem of raised wings. Seeing this instead of Seto Kaiba's sphere, Namu realizes his true situation and finally notices Guinevere's face, which is a depiction of malice with eyes full of fury for the mental raping and lobotomies of herself and her brother. Seeing the sphere, the announcer speaks. The first duel of this round will be between Miss Guinevere and Mr. Namu. Can both duelists make their ways to the duel arena? Hearing this, Namu turns and makes his way, very disgruntled, while Guinevere turns and makes her own path. Weirdly again, it turns out it's towards me, even though her elevator is a bit away from me. As she approaches, I sigh, smirk and speak. Congrats on getting your chance. Now I know those eyes are full of fury, but I can tell you're calculating something interesting. It's probably means if very dangerous, and I should ward you from it, but out of principle, but I know you would just ignore me, so what do you need? She doesn't mince words. I can tell she spent most of the break formulating a plan to take Merrick down. Her next words don't surprise me. I need something to form a shadow game, I think the spirits called it. Hearing this, I nod. Yep, foolish and reckless, just as I thought. I sigh and tilt my head to the side, thinking before shrugging and taking out something I just recently took out a few hours ago. Ronnie, Ricard, and Melina remember this item since I just showed it, and I expected Miquella to recognize it since he bloody made the thing, but I was slightly surprised when Godwin and Fortisax seemed to instinctually react to it. This here is a very special blade, my dear. Its purpose was to act as a catalyst to tear into the realm of the dead and retrieve the crafter's beloved brother. The plan failed, but mainly because the crafter didn't know he was only half dead. You could probably use it as a catalyst in this world to cut into the shadow realm and channel a shadow game. Hearing this, Guinevere goes to grab at it, seeing it as the ticket to her revenge's manifest, but I quickly keep it from her reach and speak again in the most cliché cursed salesman voice possible. But I have to warn you, my dear, the power coursing though the eclipse shuttle sears the very soul upon contact. A single lick of its golden flames would decay the body, sending them step by step closer to the end. Mainly because of this and you wanting it to be a shadow game, you're not to use it if you win to kill him. If you try, I'll have to step in to stop you, and you wouldn't want that. Hearing my warning, the goth chick is unamused and assumes I'm exaggerating. My eyes otherwise are staring directly at her, not even flinching, telling her I'm serious. Her seeing me serious for the first time causes her to shiver for a second before I lower the eclipse shuttle and it glows in light and forms into a card. I simply hand her the card since she can't be carrying weapons in public. she can already tell she could summon it if she channels some spirit energy though it. The Eclipse Shodal spell/equip. She looks at the card and smiles before making her way to the elevator. Once she's gone, Miquella speaks towards his older brother. Brother, I will just say this since I'm curious, but I could tell you felt something when he drew the Eclipse Shodal. At this the mermaid, supported by his emotional support dragon, seems to stare into space as if remembering a dream. When he drew the blade I felt like I've seen the blade before in a hazy vision, but I have no recollection of it before today. At this I reply, like a forgotten memory you remembered but still fuzzy on all the details. At this Godwin just shrugs since he feels the description is apt. Hearing this, Miquella is kind of bemused while also proud, maybe because his plan to reach the soul of his brother worked in some way, so the work he put into the ritual of the eclipsed sun wasn't a waste after all. He did make/retrofitted a whole castle in the mountains for the ritual after all. It doesn't take long before the screens in the room depict both Namu/Merrick and Guinevere on the arena. At this point of time Miquella realizes something. Wait, why did you give her the Shodal in the first place? She could do some real harm with it, and if she lost then Merrick could get it due to the anti-rule. To this I just smirk since I like messing with him, but I'll be blunt, she's not gonna win and Merrick can't use it since he doesn't use warriors or fairies. Also he's arrogant and blinded by the rod enough that he'll think the Shodal is weaker than the Millennium Rod, so he might want it since it's shiny, but he won't be able to use it effectively, actively weighing him down if he does take it.
Additionally, if you would like to request novels and access my Google Drive where I have 200+ audiobooks, then you can join my Patreon. Link is also provided in the description.